Welcome back, Red Spotters. Another show here on the Red Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host, Alexis J. Soto, joined by Mr. David Francisco with a very special guest this week. Mr. Peter Martinez is here for our final installment of the WandaVision recaps. Today we're talking about the final episode, appropriately titled, and hopefully Marvel sticks to it, called the series finale. All of that and all of the information regarding people's ridiculous takes, maybe some more rational takes, as well as all of the news surrounding WandaVision here on Red Spotlight number 306. David, Peter, how are you guys feeling today? Great. That's all I'm going to get out of you, so let's go ahead and get into some of the stuff I have prepared to drop before we get into the episode itself. We will discuss the episode as it happened in sequence, as far as what we liked and didn't like. But before that, we will have overall impressions about how we felt of this episode and how it served as a finale. But before that, there are some things regarding the show that I wanted to get into. So first and foremost, if you didn't pay attention to the news this week, WandaVision was nominated for Best Limited Series by the Directors Guild of America. Its first big nomination. It just ended. But as far as how serious you take this, don't forget that they also nominated The Mandalorian for Best Drama Series. So now every person out there, the DGA, PGA, the Emmys, the Golden Globes, Screen Actors Guild, apparently The Mandalorian is Best Drama Series worthy, so yay. Apparently the last 3 episodes of WandaVision were filmed during the COVID pandemic, and we'll get into some of the details as to how that affected things, but apparently Kat Dennings could not come back for this last episode. If you notice why she was barely in it. Paul Bettany, we talked about him for the last 2 weeks, right? About what he was saying. And so he confirmed that the secret WandaVision cameo he was hinting at was himself. This is what he said. They were guessing people like Benedict Cumberbatch or Patrick Stewart. I was thinking, God, that's a good idea. They're going to be so disappointed when they find out it's me.
Didn't give a shit.
Oh, no. Emma Caulfield, who played Dottie, confirms that the character was literally there to trick fans. She said, it was impossible for people not to be disappointed. I'm trying not to feel disingenuous, but knowing full well their theories were just so far removed from the truth, that's tough, being the red herring. Again, I hope no one eggs my house. A lot of tricks being dealt by the showrunners here for WandaVision. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Who would like to start first and give our initial impression of the episode?
I'll go first then. The final episode?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I loved it. It got pretty much everything I kind of wanted. Got a bit of action, emotions, and everything. But mostly, I guess, answers in a way. But overall, I mean, I think this really solidified my love for the show. Because, wow.
My feelings of the finale are mostly favorable. I think as far as to what I wanted most out of this finale in terms of hitting emotionally, I think it definitely hit those points that I needed to, and I think it was, for the most part, a good finale. There are some aspects that I'm not sure if you would qualify as personal nitpicks. These are just maybe certain things that I would have preferred had been revealed, and I am not referring to any of the ridiculous theories regarding multiverse or X-Men or mutants. I'm talking about, thematic narrative reasons that perhaps I could have been stronger than they were for some of the characters. But I think everything with Wanda and Vision in terms of the emotional aspect hit very well. And yeah, I kind of already loved the show But it was a good finale. And yeah, we'll get into all the aspects of it. Peter.
Yes.
This is the part where I'm asking you for your initial impressions of the episode, and then we're going to talk about how it happened in sequence.
Oh, why, thank you for asking, good sir. I mostly enjoyed it as well. I didn't have some of the issues that you had. I know privately he had told me it felt a little too woman-centric. I thought that was a bit odd, considering the star is a woman, but, you know, if those are your issues, I mean, by all means, explain when we go into detail later. But I didn't really have an issue with that. For the most part, I thought it was really well done. Again, there are issues here and there, but overall, I would say I had a positive feeling leaving the series.
Yeah, that's about it. So let's go ahead and see how this episode started off. We catch up with the cliffhanger of the Scarlet Witch. Wanda and Agatha start getting into it. They, throw around magic lasers at each other. One particular hilarious note that I kind of saw coming a mile away as soon as the car was thrown on Agatha's face and they crashed into a house was this wonderful homage to the Wizard of Oz. Of course, as Wanda's walking up to the house, she sees Agatha's, boots. Very Wicked Witch of the West esque in that situation. And she's approached by Vision, or as the comics refer to it as White Vision.
Those comic creators are very creative, huh?
I know. I kept thinking to myself the same thing. It's like, really? That's what you're going to call him? White Vision? I also don't know if that name has aged well, in the 2010s, 2020s here. Calling something White Vision, but okay. You know how they changed the name?
Panther.
Well, remember Black Manta? They changed it to Manta.
I think the Falcon used to be the Black Falcon. Like every comic book character that was literally had black skin was called the Black, like whatever. I feel like back in the day.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate.
Were any of you surprised of like how white he was? Because like when they showed him on screen, I was literally like, oh my god, like the light is reflecting on him so much. It was insane for me. I'm like, oh my god. I just thought there might be just like a little bit of gray in there or something. I don't know. But like he shows up on screen and I'm like, oh Jesus Christ.
Why are you so concerned with the color of his skin? Are you a member of the royal family?
Oh my god.
Why?
I was just surprised. Okay. It was like because like when you first see him like in the after credit scene, like there was like some blue light on him. I just kind of thought, okay, cool. But then he shows up on screen.
I was expecting him to be white because everyone was calling him White Vision, so it wasn't, I guess, that distracting. I guess there were some theories out there, like there was bad weaker theories, it turns out, but there were some theories that maybe Ultron would have had James Spader's voice, not Paul Bettany's voice. But it sounded exactly like, obviously, the Vision that we know, except for the fact that, he was completely white and we knew that it wasn't the real Vision. And he slowly, Wanda and Vision slowly embrace, and then he reaches out to caress her face. And I think by the time that he was about to place his second hand on her face, I was like, oh no, I see where this is going. And again, like, obviously he didn't end up crushing her face, but just the fact that he was basically doing that was pretty it's kind of cool to see that they actually were showing a lot of what they were doing, because again, they don't like to show a lot of the stuff that WandaVision has apparently been delving into.
He's made of vibranium. He could have popped that head in 0.2 seconds like a pimple if he wanted to.
So you're saying that the Vision inside White Vision was preventing Vision from killing Wanda?
I'm saying that it is a plot hole and therefore a terrible series.
Okay. All right. But that was that was a pretty fucked up moment, obviously, for Wanda. You know, she just can't catch a break, it seems. And then, of course, the Hex Vision comes and punches White Vision out of the way. And so begins, I think, an interesting situation where not interesting, but kind of the foreseeable, expected situation where you have Vision and White Vision flying off into the sky and fighting.
Race war.
Oh my god.
And then Wanda is flying off after Agatha. So you have the witches versus the witches, and you have the synthesoids versus the synthesoids. And it didn't occur to me, I guess, in the moment, but I noticed that a couple of people were pointing this out. And this is an issue that I believe some of us have voiced in the past. And so this is one of these Marvel-isms that they've once again done here. And that is, you have basically the hero and the villain with the exact same power set fighting each other. You have two Visions and you have two witches.
They took it to the extra level with Vision because it's literally him.
Yeah.
You know? Before, it's like somewhat copies of the hero. Now it is literally the hero. That's literally Vision fighting Vision. But no. In the moment, I didn't quite notice it, but looking back, I'm like, they cannot give up that trope of just fighting the negative version of their hero. Same power set and everything.
I think the difference though with this one is that there was a lot more purpose to them. Because my first thought is Iron Man and what's his name? Ironmonger. And I don't know, it's just like him trying to copy the suit, just that seems standard to me. But with this one though, Vision versus Vision, there was a lot more to it, like which we'll get into.
I just thought it was cool how they kept like they'd use their phase powers.
Yeah.
Like, come here, bitch. And they, like, you know, phase inside and grab each other. I just thought the fighting was cool.
Yeah.
But with the witches, it's just like, you... lightning bolt. And just, like, throwing shit at each other.
Yeah.
It just looked like a water balloon fight.
I honestly wouldn't have minded if Agatha conjured up a tornado just to throw it at Wanda, like a Wizard of Oz, go all in with it, you know.
You know what's actually, I think the coolest like witch or magical fight that I've seen is, I think it's Harry Potter and the fucking fifth one. God damn, Order of the Phoenix.
With Dumbledore
and Snape. Not Snape.
Voldemort.
That's actually because they were using different things. Mm-hmm. Like Voldemort was like threw water at him, and then he turned around the water and then put him in like a little water thing trying to drown him. Like they were just doing like weird, interesting stuff with the magic. It wasn't just like I'm throwing a color of light at you and then you throw a different color of light at me, which it seems most magic fights come down to.
That is my one complaint in the episode, actually, that I kind of wish that their fight was just a bit more fun. Like, because like the moment I was kind of like, okay, like let's really get into this fight was when Wanda flew up and she did that. What was it? I'm guessing it was like a bewitched reference.
Oh yeah, she was like
this, and she disappears. And I was like, oh my gosh, just like please, like have some fun with this, like almost like test your powers here, see what you can do, really, instead
Unlock
of just
some shit.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of do that with the reveal, which I do think the reveal of how she won is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, just on like a visceral level of like two magical beings, I think two magical beings fighting against each other, like it's literally limitless, the shit you can come up with. But it just always seems to devolve into like different colors of light just flying past each other for whatever reason. And it's just not the most interesting thing visually.
It probably doesn't help the fact that this is I would assume anyway, a smaller budget than Marvel movie would be, with it being TV. This is interesting, right? We'll talk about how the show was really restrained about how it used action a little later on, but this is basically the only action we've got as far as action sequences, people fighting with their powers, basically, in the entire series. And as far as the set pieces are concerned, I think a lot of it was fun. The moments like you mentioned with like Wanda doing that bewitched pose, or the reveal of her becoming the Scarlet Witch. Even when Wanda was messing with Agatha's mind, or when Agatha, turned the tables on her, that was fun. The White Vision stuff, it was funny how they were like using their phase-in powers to like basically go inside each other. Yes, I heard it, but I still said it, so I don't know what's a better way of saying it than that. For those last.
So you enjoyed watching Paul Bettany enter Paul Bettany?
Sure, why not? We all did. Let's be real.
True.
And then they were having basically, I guess, a philosophical version of rap battles, or is that what it's called? Is that what it was called?
Is that what people are
you
calling
asking
it?
us what rap is?
No. What that? Remember a few years ago there was this. Okay. Anyway, they were talking each other off to see, how Visions would do, I guess. Like they were talking each other out. Yeah, basically.
Philosophy discussion.
Yeah, it was good. I can't say like it was anything truly groundbreaking. I noticed no one's really talking about like the action was like great. It was good. It was serviceable. I wasn't expecting much, quite frankly. I don't mean to imply that I had an issue with it.
I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Most MCU action isn't like groundbreaking.
I know, but yet people refer to it as it is. That's why I have to reiterate that point.
Yeah.
Well, it really isn't.
Well, honestly, like the action was like the least interesting thing about this episode. Really, it was really all about.
It
the
really
emotion.
was.
I mean, I did love that.
I really like the Vision stuff.
Yeah, I like the Vision fight where it just became a philosophy discussion, and how it ended. Well, first of all, like the discussion itself about the ship thing. And how it's
the ship of the Theseus one, which I believe Doctor Who did one time in an episode, if you remember that one.
There's also some cool shots. There's like a tracking shot from like the ground level of Wanda going up to the billboard where what's her name is Agatha, and she's like laughing like and then it pans back up and you see Vision and them fight as the things separate, like you see everything that's happening all at once. There's like some cool. I was like, oh, that's neat.
Yeah. And again, I don't think, and I think David's on the same page. It's not as if we're saying we disliked it. I think we liked it. It was enjoyable. There were some better places than others, but for the most part, it was maybe the least interesting thing that was going on or to say about this episode.
Mm-hmm.
This might be the fact that it's a series. There's also missed opportunities, I feel, in the action.
Well, I mean, like I said, I wish Wanda and Agatha's fight was just a bit more fun. Like they didn't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. But they had another one of the cool shots is when they go very obviously Incredibles. Family.
That was fun.
That was the best shot, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun, yeah.
But I just I kind of wish you saw that more, like them working as a family. You know, you do the incredible shot. You know, give me a tracking shot of like the whole family working together somehow. You know,
that would have been cool.
That would have been real cool. But again, it's like budget, Corona.
I was surprised it was just that one instance. I was expecting it to go full on Incredibles, and like where they're all kind of like, you know, Agatha, White Vision, the military are all being handled at the same time with the foursome.
I mean, I had that theory that Agatha was gonna mind control Monica, and it's gonna be the Army, Vision, Agatha, and Monica versus the four of them. Like I came up with something.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe we were just. Maybe it was just too expensive.
Honestly,
I mean, you could tell the CGI went down in this last episode.
I thought it was just me, because I have to say, like, because I've noticed a lot of people weren't mentioning that, or maybe because David and I were speaking before the episode started about, like, you know, listening to a bunch of other reviews. Maybe one or two mentioned that perhaps you could see the edges of the budgetary restraints a little bit here and there. They're being very kind to it, obviously. I don't remember that kindness being offered to something else, but nevertheless, it still looked very good. I don't think it looked bad. I think but there were moments where you could tell the budget of VFX were being stretched a little bit thin.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean,
you know,
it's better than anything I've ever seen on a TV show, for sure. So
this is kind of off topic. How long are the Falcon and Winter Soldier episodes going to be?
Longer. They're going to be closer to 60 minutes.
Okay. Because that's obviously going to be much more effects driven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was like, are they going to go full 6 hours? Or are they going to be... Is it going to be 6 half-hour episodes, which is more like 3 hours? So you get to do more with effects? I don't know.
6 episodes. 6 episodes, and they'll be closer in length to 60 minutes.
So are they trying to hit 6 hours or close to that for like everyone?
Approximately 6 hours, but not really 6 hours. Maybe, yeah.
Well, they're really full of shit because like the MCU like intro is fucking long.
Yeah.
And then you have the credits that are like borderline 10 minutes. But then you also have, like, you know, last week on the show, you know, so it's like, fuck, like, you can shave off at least 15 minutes of whatever the fuck runtime says it is.
So as far as runtime is concerned, for this week, the final episode, it said it was 50 minutes. But again, not really, though, because you have to factor in basically, 10 minutes max of credits. Like, I think
by
the time the episode ended before the credits started playing, I caught the runtime and it was 40 minutes.
See, there you go. And you didn't take into account at the very beginning of the episode, which was the
intro, the previously on.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, so that there are some questions to be had here, right? I also, like, do you feel perhaps WandaVision had a lower budget than the Falcon and Winter Soldier are gonna have?
No. Well, the difference is, like, all that other stuff they did cost money. Like, cause with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you could have like a whole episode in a fucking warehouse somewhere, you know?
Mm-hmm. Probably will.
Relatively cheap. Whereas here, it's like every episode, you have to drastically change like the whole set. Because it's like, well, now it's this. And then they have like this whole town that set that it looks like they had. Or at the very least, they were down there at Universal Studios for a while.
They were, yeah.
So it seems like they had bigger, wider open spaces. Whereas with everything I've seen with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's like highway fight, which, you know, fighting on cars, you can put a car, shake it in front of a green screen and like punch each other, you know? I don't know. It's set in modern day, so it's not, like all of the backgrounds that they're using, I guarantee you they have so much of that shit in storage. They have so many like interiors of like a jet in storage somewhere, or they've done it a million times that it's fucking cheap. So I don't know. But because that does seem like a more action-centric show.
It seems that way. So that's going to be interesting to see how the effects work is like when we're going to be getting them, in 2 weeks? So we're going to be on that train again. We've seen them on a week-to-week basis, and I guess we'll be back here to talk about those episodes. But, was there any particular shot, as far as VFX work is concerned in this episode, that you felt was bad?
I mean, anything that looks better than the CW shows, I consider good. Seriously, like, just watch the Crisis on Infinite Earths CGI. Oh my god.
I have not seen that.
Might be a bit of a low bar. I guess they did that thing a lot where it's like, okay, this person is obviously floating in front of a green screen. You know what I mean? Like a lot of that was done in that way. And then when you take into account how the issues they had with this episode, it feels like it wasn't originally supposed to be that way, but they're like, fuck it, let's say this dialogue while they're floating out in the open, and we'll just throw a green screen behind them and we'll do it like that.
You mean, I think you're referring to maybe COVID limitations too, because some people were pointing out that like why Agatha was on that billboard for so long.
Yeah, she's just literally just like, I mean, I thought it was cool because, again, it always brings me back to like the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Where she just pops up high somewhere on like a fucking house. She's like, right. Fuck you, bitches. Like, that's her whole thing, the whole movie. She'll just pop up and talk shit and then pop away. And that's basically what Agatha was kind of doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did kind of come off that way where it's like,
To me, the one shot that I was like, it looked a little like it was unfinished. Not that it was, technically speaking, unfinished, but looked as if I was looking at like an animatic on a computer, was when the two visions were crashing onto the road and making like, openings. That looked a little...
Oh, I know what are you talking about? Like when they shot the beam, like
basically, yeah.
Okay.
But like they're also kind of like pushing each other into the concrete.
Oh, okay.
When they're crash landing basically onto one of the roads. But overall, I mean, for television, this is amazing. So for the most part, you can't really complain much about it. I guess what we can have an issue with was just like it wasn't anywhere near as creative as it could have been. But again, TV budget constraints are definitely there. So interesting. But overall, though, I do want to see them get away from always pairing off the obvious the witches off and then the robots have their own fight. Can we have a little bit more? I don't know. Interesting pairing offs as far as fights are concerned? Do we have to have the hero? Like off the top of your heads, can you guys think of how many times we've seen that in a Marvel movie?
Every single one.
Yeah.
Except Iron Man 3.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Thor.
No. I feel like every
Malekith.
Yeah, I mean they're different.
Elves.
I mean, Loki is that basically, you know what I mean? He's
It's weird. It's a weird thing.
And then so is Hela.
Yeah.
She's girl bad Thor. Yeah, I don't again, other than Iron Man 3, I really can't think of another example.
Well, I guess Captain America. Civil War. He was fighting Iron Man.
I guess.
Okay. But the first two Captain Americas, maybe not so. The first one for sure, because I mean, the Red Skull is the inverse of Captain America.
They both have the super soldier syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only, Red Skull's is all fucked up. So yeah. Yeah, they need to change it up.
Yeah, I would say that.
By the way, that's another reason why I always found the X-Men so interesting. Because they throw a lot of different kinds of superhero individuals at each other. And I think that always created fun action scenes.
Well, Logan, though, kind of didn't make something different. He fought a clone of himself.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking more of the other X-Men. Like,
No, I know what you meant, but like it's just funny though that like Logan, like one of the best ones out of all of them, he
Yeah.
fought himself.
that one had a very symbolic reason and stuff. But yes,
True.
Yes, that's true.
It's the same thing though. It's the person he's fighting is himself.
It is literally
There's more
himself.
to it.
And his
But
partner,
I mean, that's the point. He's killing.
It is.
He's fighting his past.
That's very
literally.
true. But also like the person fighting with him is also like another clone of him, I guess.
Yeah, comics are weird. I don't know what the fuck to tell you.
Yeah, but we've had enough of them to come up with so many examples. This is maybe an area perhaps we can get a little bit more creative in the future.
That's another reason Spider-Man was always really cool. Because he
That's
had
true.
like Doc Ock, and he always had weird supervillains. The only one you could really say is Venom, but even Venom was just fucking weird.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't he an alien?
Yeah.
Technically, yes.
There was something here regarding a cut sequence that was actually filmed. I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but this is regarding Monica, and we're going to get to Monica in a bit, especially with the reveal of Ralph Boner. Boner. I want to get that out of the way with. All right, so director Matt Shackman, who directed all of these episodes, was saying that it was this is what he said. We did have something planned for Senior Scratchy, which we ultimately couldn't do just because the finale had so many different chess pieces. But we did have a whole sequence where Darcy, Monica, Ralph meet up with the kids, Billy and Tommy, and they're in Agatha's house, and they think that maybe they should steal the Darkhold from the basement because the kids had seen it down there when they were being held hostage. And they go down to get the book, and as they reach to get the book, the rabbit hops up in front of the book, and they're like, oh, it's Senior Scratchy, he's the best. And they reach over and scratch him, and he hisses, and this whole American werewolf in London transformation happens where the rabbit turns into this big demon, and a Goonies set piece ensues where they try to escape from the rabbit. We shot it, but didn't finish all the VFX for it. It was a great sequence. It was super fun, and everyone was great in it, but we ended up moving it aside because it was a huge detour in the middle of everything that was going on.
That does sound fun.
Yeah, it really does, especially with the kids. Like, I mean, that would have been
And
great.
a big old demon. That's fun.
Yeah. But I'm going to assume COVID played a big part in it. Well, no, they shot it. He said that they actually filmed
They
this.
shot it,
was
but the
the
VFX weren't finished. And the thing though is that it takes like a lot of money to be COVID safe on set, so the budget must have gone. I mean, I don't know if they even got more money after COVID, but yeah, a lot of it must have gone to be COVID safe on set.
Yeah. Before we move off the action entirely, can we just say, I think we're all on the same board, but perhaps a lot of people were not expecting this to be the case with WandaVision. So we've seen all 9 episodes now, but I'll speak for myself in this case. I appreciate the lack of, or the restraintness, I'll say this, in terms of feeling like they didn't have to have action every single episode. We only had this is the only episode where we had action sequences. And I was, I guess all of us to an extent, our biggest fears going into this was that the quote unquote sitcom gimmick was going to last maybe 2-3 episodes, 2 seconds. And then it would just basically become the Sword Show, basically was what we feared it would be. I mean, can we just say how great it is that they didn't feel the need to throw action at us every single week and only kept it to the finale? What'd you guys think?
Yeah. I actually really like that. I want to say that the reason why I partly did enjoy the fights is because I think it built up to it well, at least with Vision versus Vision, because I don't know, I feel like because of this show, you did have to get around with the fact that what happened to his body. And so I think once we got an answer to that, like, I think it was inevitable that we were going to see them both fight in this scene. In the case with Wanda and Agatha, I mean, I don't know if that was built up in a good way. Because like, I mean, Agatha just comes out of nowhere, and the only reason why I knew about it is because because I knew about the comics. But like, if you ask someone from like a general audience who've never read a comic, I wonder what they would have thought about the Agatha reveal.
She, just to bounce off that, Agatha, the character itself is neat. The actress, what's her name, is obviously awesome.
Catherine Hahn.
Yes, Katharine Hepburn. She's really good. And I really like her. It does just feel like another example, though, of Marvel stunt casting, where it's like, wow, this is going to be cool. And it's like, you kind of just exist for something for the good guy to fight at the end.
Mm-hmm.
That inclusion kind of feels that way. So I do get what you're saying.
Yeah. So since we're there, I was gonna move to Monica in a bit, but since we're on the topic of Catherine Hahn here, look, she was amazing. I mean, she was outstanding, and I think even while she was basically just used here for exposition and fighting and everything, and to be the villain, the bad guy, every line, I think it reminds me of like Hela from Thor Ragnarok, where she really didn't have much of anything to be, but the presence of Cate Blanchett just really sold it for me. And I think for a lot of people. With Catherine Hahn, you get a little bit more with Catherine Hahn here, but there was, I guess to me at the end of the day, I and this may be an instance where I myself was maybe hoping too much for what they were going to do with Agatha, because before we saw the episode, we were discussing about like how she was going to tie in any way whatsoever thematically with Wanda's, story of grief and everything. And I have this tweet here by one TV critic here who I follow. I think I shared this with Peter, but I want to read this. The main thing that bothers me about the finale is that the goals that bring Agatha and Wanda into their ultimate physical conflict are really not thematically related in any way. It's just a fight for batteries. And I guess for me, it's like, that's true. I really fell in love with the idea that perhaps Agatha came here because she herself was also experiencing some grief and wanted the magic to bring someone back. I guess this is kind of an area where my expectations maybe are clouding how I feel about this overall, but I kind of think that would have been a little cooler, to kind of tie her story in thematically. I think what they did here ultimately was just Marvel bad guy, and I'm still not sure what I think, because I was watching it back again, and I guess the whole thing with Agatha is her thing is she seeks out people who are undeserving of magic and she sucks it up. But it's a little weird, the messaging, because she's clearly not a good person, but I guess she wants to come off as this like gatekeeper of like making sure who gets to have magic and who doesn't.
She clearly isn't. She wants to be a big and powerful witch. And also, I think it just comes from the fact that she figured out, she saw this big thing going on and she's like, fuck, like, how is she doing this? And then when she figured out, she's like, oh, fuck, like, she's the big, scary, bad witch who's destined to destroy the world. I gotta fucking stop her. So in a way, she's acting somewhat heroic, but she does it in the most asshole way possible, like, fuck you and your kids. I'm gonna,
yeah, well, when she said undeserving, I didn't really think like, oh, this person's bad, I gotta take away their magic. I just thought of it like, those of you who are undeserving, meaning like she's not using it to her full potential, I'm just gonna take it for myself. Like, that's how I saw it. I didn't really see it as her. She has the
breakfast for dinner line. Yeah. Like, you got all this power and you're doing shit with it, and beyond that, you'll destroy the world. So yeah. But no, I go into what you said, Alexis. I agree. This issue wouldn't exist if they had just sort of created a thematic parallel between her and Wanda that would like play into their issues. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And again, and I mean, and I guess you know what makes it worse? What makes it worse is the villains literally are these like mirror versions of the heroes. So why not play into like all the more reason to thematically play into that? So you could have had her like she's an example of what she fucked up a long time ago. And she let that, like, you know how she like went crazy and like killed all her coven. Like, let's say she did that on accident, similar to what Wanda did, right? And she just like never forgave herself for that. And then like because of that, she just views herself as like broken and bad, and she sees Wanda as like this, like her times 1,000. So she's like, fuck you. I know people like you. I am people like you. I gotta destroy you, basically. And it could, like, that could have been interesting, right? Like, but instead she's just like, which is fun. But it's like, if the show's trying to be more, then be more. If you get what I mean.
Yeah.
And also, if we take a step back, I can't think it would have been that hard to just slot in that storyline in there.
No,
it was right there.
It was already there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You don't have to change. And I'm going to assume they're going to bring her back for the Multiverse of Madness movie, because they were teasing like, oh, well, you know, you're going to need my help when this whole thing happens. Yeah. You don't have, you could still have all those things. You can leave her in place somewhere before you bring her back in the Doctor Strange film, but why not thematically tie everything in? And I feel like when you do that, you end up getting a better story.
Yeah, I feel like this is storytelling 101 that Marvel often forgets simply because they're trying to adhere to the formula too hard, you know, or they gotta drop the references, or they just gotta do something along those lines.
I mean, it's really just the setup that kind of like screws them over, because like I like your idea and all, but that feels like the ending of her story, or at least like part
Whose
of it,
story?
you know. Agatha's, like you said, why not tie it in thematically in that, oh, she sees herself in Wanda, but then by the end of it, you know, they get along. Wanda's like, oh,
Well, I didn't say they got along by the end of it.
Oh, I know, but like
You could just have Wanda like you could have the same thing, right? Like she has that moment where she's at the very end, she's like, you know, they're broken. This world is broken just like you. And then she's like, you don't tell me who I am. Like, I'm not broken, right? Like, you can literally still have the same ending where because what's her name? Agatha views herself as broken. She doesn't believe that Wanda can be anything other than broken herself. But then Wanda proves wrong, and she, you know, rises above it and becomes better, you know, mentally.
Okay, I get it.
What I really think, and this may be thinking differently than what you were suggesting just there, but like, and this is something in my head, right? Like, what I felt maybe what ultimately was going to happen in the end was, so for weeks, David was saying that Monica was going to play a big part, or in Wanda bringing down the Hex because of their shared experience of grief. They both lost someone very important, more along the, you know, at the same time, around the same time. And when I said about like one way you could, you know, tie Agatha's story thematically with Wanda is, you know, she lost someone recently that mattered to her, and she wants to use, you know, the chaos magic to bring her back or bring them back, which is why she's trying to get it out of Wanda. And maybe the resolution could be where they both kind of have like, instead of like them punching each other in the face, the resolution could be maybe a mutual understanding, and they become allies and they bring this thing down together. That's what I thought this was gonna go into. And I think maybe, I guess I fell in love with that idea too much. I would have preferred that, though.
I think both work equally. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, there's like a million directions and tiny differences between each of those million options that you can do. as long as it just all works together cohesively and thematically. Like that's just kind of the goal, right? It doesn't there can be 100 different options in between that, but as long as it meets that goal, it works. And I guess that's my issue here, is it's just kind of, she just pops in like, give me your power, and it's like, this isn't what we were discussing, guys. You know, we're talking about her depression.
Yeah, I think that criticism is fair, because there was, to me, I agree with you, Peter. I think it very well could have easily been slotted in, but it just, that wasn't the intent. So there was that where it could have been better, but that isn't to say, of course, that what we got was awful. It's just more of what we've seen thus far, and so that can get a bit tiresome. What did we feel about Wanda's decision to basically transform her and imprison her inside this Agnes persona?
It's funny. A lot of people were like, "Oh my god, that's so evil! Oh my god, that's so cruel!"
Yeah,
and it's
I kept
like,
hearing that too.
She did try to kill her, like,
And her kids, and she killed the dog.
And she killed the dog. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like
I'm gonna feel bad for
cruel
her.
of her. And then also, Wanda, which I think is pretty cool, is she ain't a Boy Scout, you know. She started out life in this universe as extremely radicalized individual. Due to,
she's got a dark side, that one.
Yeah, she always has. She'll try and do the right thing, but if you fuck with her, you know, she might fuck with you much harder, and that's something we call consequences. Yeah, I don't have a problem with this.
Yeah, same.
One of the, talking about Agatha and the set pieces that she shared with Wanda, this is not so much action in the traditional sense, but, you know, story action. For me, one of my, I think the best part of the episode in the series was when Agatha basically released the meat puppets, and all of them were like gathering around Wanda. And at first I thought, holy shit, is this like a zombie movie? They're going to like charge her and try to, like, obviously they wouldn't get very far. But no, they were all kind of like approaching her and like begging for their lives to please let us go. If you're not going to let us go, please let us die. And then she, you know, she has like a nervous expression or like meltdown, and she accidentally starts choking the hell out of all of them, like literally choking the life out of them. I thought that was a pretty great sequence overall in terms of like what it was going for. I think the horror in that was pretty great, especially when she released Dottie, and or I think her real name was Sarah, and she was like, Wanda, I have a daughter, you know, if you want, she's begging her for a storyline. I haven't been able to hold her in weeks. She can be friends with your kids or maybe a bully. Just if you like that better, like, holy crap. I thought that was great stuff right there.
Yeah. Were you gonna say something? Or
No.
Oh,
okay.
No, I mean, I did like the whole, it did feel like a zombie apocalypse type of thing in the beginning of it, but I kind of like how we did get the answers of like, how the heck does everything work in the hex, you know? And so now we know it's just like, they're just stuck and everything, at least with the kids part. Because it was a big question, like, what happened to the kids? Like, where did they come from?
This is me being a negative Nancy, but it did kind of seem like you could have the hex and it just be fucking cool. Like everything would have worked out fine. Because seemingly they could be in the hex and just woken up out of the hex. So what you could have done is just have the hex going, so you have Vision and the kids there, but just wake everyone in the town up, and then just have, you know, let people live their normal lives. I don't know.
No, I think that's a pretty fair nitpick too, because at the end of the episode, when she's off in that, you know, mountain rage, I was thinking to myself, couldn't you have just gone there and done the whole hex thing and then just created a whole town, since she has the ability to create people or manifest actual life? It seems, couldn't she just have done that and then nobody would have been affected by it?
Yeah, just learn to do the hex properly this time.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, we gotta remember though, in the beginning it was an accident. in the beginning.
Yeah,
so
obviously,
and
yeah.
everything.
And it's also a show, and you wouldn't have a show if it was like everything was fine. So, you know, you have to have a conflict of some sort.
This is the fun nitpicking that the internet has taken all the fun out of because they fucking take it seriously. Like, it's serious critiques. Like, what I'm saying isn't a serious critique. It's just fun to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so much of the internet has destroyed fun. So, like, so, yeah. I don't know.
No, I agree
Like
with that.
the idea that the fact that Wanda created Vision, technically Vision is her son,
Oh my god.
and she married her son and had kids with her son, and Vision was technically like a few weeks old, so that is both illegal in many ways. Yeah.
I don't know how to follow that. And Peter, you know, congratulations. We didn't mention that last week, but you know, he wanted to get that in there somewhere in case someone mentioned it. So great, we have that.
Comics are weird. I don't know what to tell you. Some weird shit.
Okay, let's move on to the Vision and White Vision stuff. I gotta be honest, I kind of don't know how to feel about all of what happened. First of all, I think, David, your theory didn't, I think, pan out. The one that you had thought of was that, okay, so we can use White Vision's body and then just insert basically the Hex Vision into the body and then everything will be fine. I think a lot of people were like getting behind that idea in terms of like, oh yeah, that's going to happen. That didn't pan out. But there was a lot of attention spent on Vision talking White Vision down. And then he kind of, at the end, flew off somewhere. And I guess for me, what has me feeling a bit mixed about it is, why do we need White Vision out there?
So they can bring Vision back eventually.
But if she's already going to bring back her kids through some other means from, I guess, a different
The whole family
world, why
will be
can't
back
she...
together.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. She already has a means to do that, doesn't she? Without having to have White Vision exist somewhere off in the distance. That's what I'm saying.
That's the original Vision.
True, but then also like I don't think I got a feeling that they're not gonna use Vision in this as to like bring her and him back together in a way.
I think it would be a lot cooler to be like, I'm the Vision, I got my memory back, but I'm kind of a different person now, and
I think
that's how it is in the comics.
Yes, I was going to mention that. I was hearing a podcast, listening to a podcast that said that, you know, when Vision becomes White Vision,
he's like, straight up, I don't love you. Like, I don't know you.
He's a different Vision, which is why it's like when you said, David, like that is Vision's body, but that the Vision that died in Infinity War never came back. He's dead. We have two different Visions here. This is the carcass, but a different AI, basically, or a different, I guess, persona. And then you have the Vision that Wanda created out of her memory, out of her love, as she says. But the Vision that we thought died in Infinity War, he's dead. He ain't coming back, right?
We don't know that. I 100% believe Marvel will pull Vision's back, and he's exactly this. I believe they are fully capable of doing that. That's why I feel like the it wasn't even a tease, but just like him flying off and then we don't know anything is really kind of lame because it takes away from her saying goodbye to Vision for the third time, for the last time, hopefully. Because then it's like, okay, because then he's just gonna come back in some form down the line.
I kind of wish we kind of got what I wish they would have done though is that Hex Vision tells her Wanda that like, hey, the other Vision is alive and he might need some help, and like I kind of wish it was more confirmation that like she really is letting go of Vision, like she's not gonna worry about White Vision at all because she knows it's a different person maybe. Like, I kind of wish we just got some kind of confirmation of that. Because that's what I'm hoping is that later on is that what they do with White Vision is just sort of him sort of trying to compromise with like who he is now and like what he can become.
Like a different person. Like, this is kind of off topic, but there are stories. It's pretty fucked up. Where like two people, they fall in love and it's boom, like a whole thing. And then that person, like one of them gets amnesia and they break up. They're like, I don't know you. Like, you say I fell in love with you. I have no memory of that. And then they just person goes off and falls in love with someone else. And it's pretty sad and fucked up and shit like that. I think you could have done something like that. And maybe they will do something like that.
Yeah.
With White Vision, right? Where like he comes back and he's like, I might be technically the Vision, but I'm not your Vision.
If I were to probably guess at this moment where that's going to go, I think that's what they're going to do with White Vision, because I'm of the mind that the Vision that died in Infinity War is not coming back. The Vision that is coming back, I think, is the Hex one, but it's not going to be put into White Vision's body.
So you think there's going to be two Visions?
Which is why I'm confused. Why would you have two different visions? I don't think the Hex
Vision is going to come back.
But if the Hex children are being teased to come back, why wouldn't the Hex Vision come back?
Because he didn't call out for them. Her kids did.
Okay. I have a theory on that, but we'll get into it. I have a theory. We'll get into it when we get into it.
But if this was the one and only time we were going to see the Vision family together, then I am pretty peeved that we never saw some straight up Incredibles shit going on. You know what I mean?
They had a pose and that was it.
I want more than a pose. I wanted them working together.
David, you were going to say?
I forgot what I was going to say, actually. Damn it.
Okay, well... Okay. Yeah, I have mixed feelings on it because I don't know what ultimately is going to come of it, and I feel that it does. While and we'll get to the emotional send-off, I think it still landed with me, but it's one of those things from a writing standpoint where it just leaves me question, like, okay, well, what is the point? Why is White Vision in this at all? If he's going to be off somewhere, and that's it, like. I don't know, like, I guess maybe this is maybe perhaps another way you could have tied it in thematically. Maybe White Vision could have been used for Vision to be, well, he seemed okay to just die anyway, so maybe I don't know what I'm saying here, but I don't know. I'm struggling for a point here overall of White Vision other than just another armed wrestle.
Well, I mean, the big thing that we actually have to think about is one of the last lines he said is that, I wonder what I'll become next. And so we may necessarily not get like the Vision back. He may become something more that we just can't think of right now. You know what I mean? And so I think that might be the payoff between White Vision and Hex Vision.
Or just let Wanda be a single mom.
That too.
It's 2021, okay? It's the 21st
but that's
century.
basically what that will become, wouldn't it? If White Vision ends up becoming his own thing and he's not with Wanda, then that means
Vision becomes a deadbeat dad.
Well, that's not technically. He's not. Their
that's
father.
Well, I'd like to see the DNA test.
Oh my god. The point is, if that storyline does end up panning out like in the comics, then that would mean that Wanda never gets Vision back.
Maybe.
But
I mean, that's kind of the point of the show, right?
That's yes. So I'm torn about that because that makes, I guess, more thematic sense. But then
you want Vision.
I want to see them back together, you know, because I'm so invested in them as a
I would have been
couple and everything.
I would have been more okay with him not coming back if I got my Incredible shit. But since I didn't, okay, I want him back. Plus, Marvel's gonna do it. They don't. It took them 10 years to kill one of the main Avengers. 10 fucking years. With Iron Man. What's his name? Pietro doesn't count. So they don't kill these characters off that easy.
Death is not really kind of an end from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so we have to obviously remember
not in
that.
comics in general. But that's
true.
why people kind of stopped reading comics too. Because it became bullshit.
Yeah. So yeah, there is that. I did find it a little bit amusing, and on my second watch, while that, and I guess there was this moment where Vision was trying to fly off to help Wanda take on Agatha, and she kind of like pushed him back. But I was amused at how many different like shots we had of like Vision and the kids and Monica just like they're just chilling watching the battle in the sky.
Yeah, that was weird. Like one was fine, just kind of. I kind of wish they did get into more of that final part of the battle between Wanda and Agatha, just because what I found so weird is that they're flying around, and I'm kind of like, why is Agatha moving around? Like, you want her power. You know what I mean? Like, stay still. She's going to hit you. And so that's...
Yeah, I don't...
Like, I mean, I need to rewatch it, but, like, I kind of thought maybe Wanda was going to go for some, like, physical attacks. Like, actually go for, like, a punch at some point. But I don't know.
I do like the idea of setting a clever trap, and I think it was a clever trap with the runes and everything.
Yeah, I mean,
that was neat.
No, yeah, that was really awesome. And I did like... And then there were moments though where like she's obviously getting weak, so she's trying to throw it, but she misses. Like I did like those, but it's like I just still find it weird though that like Agatha's moving around. She's trying to like get her power and everything.
I guess what I found a little bit weird is like at the moment where Wanda clearly has lost and Agatha has absorbed her power, and then you cut to Vision and he's covering up the kid's eyes, but they're just still standing there, and I'm like, why are you standing there? If you help her.
Oh, you know what would have been cool? Since
again, nitpicks people.
No,
but
I know.
I was just questioning.
No, but like, you know what would have been cool? If, okay, so you know how in Infinity War she can like does the mind thing with Vision and like they can, why couldn't she just like give him images of the runes? And since one of the kids can kind of like, I guess, see them telepathically, he can also see the runes, like somehow just like telepathically send the runes to Vision and the Sun, and let them make the runes, and then just have Wanda activate them at some point or something. I don't know.
But overall, the big thing in that sequence was the arrival of the Scarlet Witch, and I think that was a great sequence where you had, you know, the emergence of the costume and the wonderful score by Christoph Beck.
Best costume in the MCU.
Oh, for sure. Oh,
that is
God.
a take. But it's a great costume. It's
costume.
a great.
Oh my God.
If I had the nitpickiest of nitpicks, I'd like the little horns just a little bit bigger.
I kind of disagree. I think it's. I honestly thought my first thought was to make it like smaller, make it like a tiara or something. But I think
Let me
it got
ask you,
the right
when it comes to
size.
Batman ears, small ears or big ears?
Big ears. Because
Okay, see, I agree too.
Because in the comics, so he uses them as a weapon. Like he'll like headbutt some of the villains.
I don't know, it's a little violent.
If it were a Zack Snyder movie, he'd stab somebody's neck with one of the ears.
Cut them open like a bull.
I think they do shoot
would
out.
fall to the floor.
I think they do shoot out at one point in the comics.
They
By
just
the way,
basically
are you
become
guys not
guns.
excited for the Snyder Cut?
Oh my God.
Oh, God. Rated
4
R. Don't
hours,
watch it with the
baby.
kids. But
Yeah,
no, the
no.
costume is amazing. It's so good.
great.
It's so good.
Some people put a picture of hers and Magneto's suit in what is
Yeah,
it, X-Men
there is
Apocalypse,
some
and it did look pretty similar. I
similarities.
thought. I mean, I'm sure they did get ideas from it because apparently they're related.
The costume, by the way, is also getting a lot of points for being a little bit more progressive than the original costume she had. Elizabeth Olsen was saying that she was happy that this costume, she doesn't have to show as much cleavage as the other costumes did. And interestingly, how this all happens the week that Lola Bunny is being apparently made into a martyr of some sort by the conservative right wing for apparently being made to look less sexy, it seems like, in Space Jam.
I'm
2.
disgusted by that decision. Disgusted. Western civilization is truly crumbling around us. No, like a lot of that's the thing. A lot of what do you call it? Female superhero costumes are just borderline lingerie.
Mm-hmm.
And no better example of that was the original skirt. Well, not even the original. The original one's not that bad, like back when, like the 1960s. But once you start getting into the 80s and shit, like basically lingerie. Again, this it was all men working on this shit. They drew what they wanted. So no, it is. That's the thing though. Like it's. But that's why I always give pushback when people are like, well, you can't do the original costume. No one's saying to literally throw them in pajamas out there, but you can do a really good remix.
Well, she had the original costume in a couple episodes ago. Remember?
And obviously I don't want her to fight in that or even just walk around normally in that. But like this costume, it's fantastic. Like it's and it's not lingerie. Like she's got those like those black leggings or whatever, and it's like really cool. She has like she's got the like the crown horns, and it is sort of like this, but it's not showing too much. She's got the long gloves. I like the long glove look.
But
the
also,
cape, and then she also has a hood.
I like how I think the crown thing turns into the hood almost. I think.
Yeah. It's fucking
the hoodie
cool.
was great.
Oh my god,
it's really good, and I think the thing that really sold it to me was the after credits scene where she's like floating, and all the shit's happening, and she's in the garb, and it looks so good. And it's just like you can make a good costume out of anything. None of this like, well, it doesn't, modern day or even real life, it doesn't translate. It can translate if you try.
Well, my favorite one before this one was Captain America's in Endgame. And it was as accurate as possible. You get like those
the
scales thing and all that. And like I just thought, oh my god, this is so amazing.
I remember when the MCU was first taking off, and I remember so many people going like, this shit just will never translate. You can't do it. And then I saw the Captain America thing, and I'm like, oh, it looks good. And then people are like, Thor, silly fucking Thor. Thor's not gonna work. Thor looks pretty damn good. Like
Infinity War.
Like,
oh my god.
Yeah. All right. David's getting all hot and bothered. We gotta move on.
Oh god.
No.
I wouldn't blame you though. I mean, he is amazing in that movie for many different reasons. But I think what Peter was saying is that
you like him a little big.
Hey, Australia's a great country. I'll just say that.
I like him big.
The thing is this, Peter was referring to Captain America and Thor when they were both having their first movies back in 2011, and people were all like, all the naysayers, like, you cannot translate those characters, those costumes into a live action setting from the comic book. And here we are 10 years later, and look what we have now. I think what really sells the costume, though, an underrated part of it was, you notice her hair is different, right?
Yeah.
She has curly hair now instead of the straight hair that she usually sports.
I like that. I like that because so much of, I feel like these female superheroes, it's like, oh, they're in a battle and they're scratched up and they got blood, but their hair is fucking perfect.
So was Captain America's hair was perfect in that last Endgame movie, like...
It's short
hair, though.
It's short hair, so it's more believable that I have long hair, okay? I am speaking from a place of understanding. Okay, the idea that you could be in fucking war with your flowing hair and it's just like beautiful, bullshit. Bullshit. Okay, especially for all of them. The only one I give a pass to is Thor, because that's God hair, okay? It is indestructible. It is made to be that way. But everyone else...
What about Captain Marvel?
Yeah, but...
well, she cut her hair.
Well, in the movie, she didn't. In her movie, she had long hair, right? Longish.
Yeah.
But the thing, though, is like with short hair, like... But the most messiest you can get is like... It's just basically just putting the front part down and make it look messy. But like even then, though, like it looks good.
You try to mess with short people's hair, nothing. Like it's... Boom, it's good. So I like that she's got like a just kind of, I don't know what you call it, like blown out, like just kind of a little scraggly, but it looks good. Like it doesn't look like she hasn't showered in 50 weeks. It just looks, it's like, yeah, I don't want to comb it, so it's gonna be the way it's gonna be. You know,
and that could work later on when she gets in the fight, and you probably won't notice a difference that it probably is messy or not.
I guess the only one that could get away with it, if they ever even do this ever again, if they ever do a proper adaptation of Inhumans, that Medusa character with the long hair,
Yeah,
because her hair was literally a weapon.
It's unfortunate because
that was
I
a
like
bad effect.
I like the characters of the Inhumans, but they are just gonna bury those characters. They're gonna move, and it sucks because they started coming out in a lot of things across a lot of different mediums because they were gonna become a movie.
Then the show hit.
And then the show hit, and that died, and that just stopped. Like, no more Inhumans anywhere. So, and I guarantee you they're gonna be replaced by the Eternals.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna see the Eternals everywhere. But I mean, Chloe Zhao. Let's see.
Well, at some point they're going to run out of characters, so maybe they'll get their turn maybe in 10 years from now.
They'll all be resurrected.
At some point. But no, great costume. Wonderful resolution as far as the action is concerned. Okay, let's talk about, before we get into the final wrap up with Wanda and Vision, Monica. Let's start off with her with Evan Peters. I love it.
You would.
Oh my god.
I love it, man. Look, listen. I think it was funny. I mean, I don't know. There were some people who were having genuine conniption fits over this for various different reasons, but the reveal of like, oh, he's just a guy and his name is Ralph Boner, and Evan Peters was just like Boner. I don't know. I thought that was hilarious, and honestly, it's like, I know it is a big middle finger to those diehard fans, and I would be lying if that wasn't a factor as to why I love this. Because I feel a middle finger to the fans every now and then, I think is kind of needed when they're so used to getting...
Keep them humble.
When they're so used to getting everything that they ask for. And every once in a while, would it kill people to, I don't know, flip them off? I don't know. I love that moment.
Also, I feel like fans a lot of the times just like getting high on the idea of they know what's going to happen before anyone else knows, and I've read this before. Like it's fucking weird. Just like it's almost like bragging rights.
I have something I want to read in a bit.
Okay, then I won't get into that.
that.
But you know what I think would be a really fun compromise? Just really quick. Evan Peters is Ralph Boner. Like that's who he is. Ralph Boner. But his time in the Hex, like, he was left with the super speed powers. So as Ralph Boner, he becomes the new Quicksilver. But he still has the personality and stuff of Ralph Boner. But because he has the super speed powers, he's like, they kind of recruit him just to retroactively become the new Quicksilver, and he takes up that mantle of Quicksilver. I think that could be a fun compromise, because I think that would still be funny that he just kind of stumbles into this, and it's like, okay.
Are we sure he kept those powers?
See, that's interesting, because I assumed that he lost the powers when he lost, I don't know, like the necklace or whatever that they put on him. But the secret scene that they shot had him working with
that's right, with Monica and Darcy and the kids.
I assume he still had his powers when he was working with them and helping them. Otherwise, why would he be there? And then also Monica got her powers due to the hex. So why not what's his name?
I could see a way where they retroactively make him a bigger part of something else. I wouldn't discount that idea. And it's funny, Ralph Boner, he's an actor. I think that he was literally an actor, right? Because he had a headshot.
that was a headshot. Yeah,
I'm an actor. They did it again from Iron Man 3.
Oh my
It's Trevor Slattery all over again.
That's funny.
What do you think, David, of this whole reveal of Ralph? Were you one of these people who was a little bugged by that?
I wasn't bugged by it, but I was kind of like, damn. What? Like, it is a bit of a wasted opportunity. Like, I will say that, but I don't care. You know, it's also like the big thing though is that like I watched the CW shows and they did their multiverse too, and the big thing that like some people get confused on is that when they go to a different universe and there's a Superman, but like played by a completely different person, they get confused as to like, how does this work? Like, why are they different? You know, because the whole point of the multiverse is that it's the same you, just a little bit different. You know, either you're evil, you're just a bit taller. I don't know what the fuck. And so that's one of the confusing things in the CW Arrowverse. So I don't know. And
I have some. Go ahead, David. Finish.
Just like what? And again, like for the general audience, like I feel like doing that, just having someone completely different play the same character, that might confuse them.
Yeah, let's see if we can get into this a little bit. I have some materials here from the creators. So I have here a quote from Jack Schaefer, she is the showrunner for the show. She was asked about, what about Quicksilver? Might we see him again? Everyone loved the meta thing that Marvel did here by casting the actor from the Fox Marvel version of the past. And this is what she said. What I can say is that I think Evan Peters did an incredible job with this role, and I found it to be such a joy to both work with him and watch him on screen. And you know, as a fan, I'm interested to see whatever he does next.
They don't fucking know.
Yeah.
No. However, I got this quote from a review from IGN. They were pissed about this reveal, and I'm going to read this part here. They say, talking of conspiracies to crack, WandaVision's handling of Evan Peters Pietro, who was revealed to be just some guy called Ralph Boner, using Evan Peters for the role and stringing the mystery over multiple episodes, feels like something of an unfair trick from Marvel. In a universe that has built its reputation and reason to be on its interconnectedness, it feels as if fan investment in the multiple worlds of Marvel has been leveraged to create excitement for no payoff at all. And worse still, a dick joke to cap it all off. It feels much like Iron Man 3's Mandarin reveal, but without the actual fun.
There was like a million, obviously, and we talked about them too, fan theories of what could happen, who could pop up and stuff like that.
Can I quote this tweet to just wrap them all up? So this person was this person whose Twitter handle was literally called the Snyderverse.
Oh no.
This is a serious tweet about WandaVision. This is what this person, and it was retweeted by some other people. No Doctor Strange, no Mephisto, no Quicksilver, no multiverse, no huge cameo, no aerospace engineer, no Magneto, no Reed Richards, no Grim Reaper, no Nightmare. But all of these were teased by the cast in interviews or the show. The weekly release did WandaVision a disservice in the end. And the person that retweeted this saying The Mandalorian did this to people. Anyway, you were saying?
There's people had like a million fan theories that they just wouldn't let go of, and then when they didn't come true, they thought that the show was worse because their fan theories didn't come true. All of those, I think, are dumb. However, when it comes to the Evan Peters things, I think it's fair to say if you feel negatively about that, that's fair. I think that's fair.
I understand that the most.
Yeah, it's fair, but also though that doesn't make the show bad.
I think when I say fair, I think it means you could make an argument
You could make a fair critique of how they handled that character, basically.
Yeah, because they very clearly within the show were baiting you, right? Like they literally, I can't remember what episode was it, 5 or 6 or whatever, when he showed up
5
at the very end, and it's like this big like mic drop, like, you know, who is he? How is this going to be explained? And then at the very end, like, oh, that's who you are. Like, I think if you feel some type of way about that, because they did build it up, there's fair critiques you can make, for sure.
I don't think anybody is using it to say that the show, anybody's serious. Like, I've noticed a lot of critics that were saying that was that it bugged them and that they were critical of that storyline, but they're not saying that the whole thing was a waste, but they felt like they were intentionally fucked with that.
They were.
Yeah.
But either you can love it or you can hate it, right?
Yeah.
Or just feel whatever about it. And I think any 3 of those feelings are fair. But when you start going like, there was no Mephisto, and it's like, well, fans created that. Like, nowhere within the text of the series is it ever made clear, like, oh yeah, we're hinting at Mephisto, and then it just never happens. Like, that's never done. The fans
and David called that from day one. David called that day one. There's no Mephisto that was going to be on this show, and you were right.
Yep. With the Doctor Strange thing, though, what were their exact words? Did they say that it was going to tie into Doctor Strange or just lead into Doctor Strange? Because
these are very good questions.
Because both are different for me.
Right. Well, I have a lot of answers in regards. Let's put a pin in that question.
I'm very happy Doctor Strange isn't there, by the way.
Same.
I am as well, but because a couple of things, let's sort this out one by one. Peter, you had read fake leaks, as it turned out.
Oh, yeah. I remember those.
There were going to be like very explicit connections to Doctor Strange.
FAIRE,
right?
like Doctor Strange was going to show up with Wong. And, you know, they were going to help do shit. And then what Evan Peters was very clearly going to be from the X-Men universe. And he was going to have another scene, you know, where he goes all fast. And I think he was going to do that to rescue the people of Westview or some shit. So people went a long ways with their fan fiction. And I remember reading that and going like, yeah, this all sounds possible. I don't want it, but it sounds possible. I want this to be a show about Wanda and the shit she's dealing with and her relationship with Vision and all this extra shit that I don't want it shoved in just for the sake of fans to go like, oh my gosh, that's the character I know. Like, you fuckers just got Endgame, like, and you're crying about a Doctor Strange cameo? Like, fuck off. Like, you're gonna get the sequel. You've seen Doctor Strange. You've seen every character in the entire MCU team up in a film not that long ago, and you're here crying, wanting more random cameo. Like, chill the fuck out. You've seen the character. You know what he is. You're getting a sequel. You don't need this cameo.
With Matt Shackman, he said this in regards to the Evan Peters situation. Didn't you guys learn from Iron Man 3 with the fake Mandarin? And my first takeaway was how that was my favorite part of Iron Man 3. When Ben Kingsley came out of the bathroom saying, "Don't go in there," I was like, this is amazing. Trevor, the fake Mandarin, was fantastic. Playing with expectations, turning things around is always enjoyable. And what I would say to the Marvel fans, the Marvel fan who's a little disappointed that the X-Men didn't show up or the multiverse didn't show up clearly right there, is that they're coming. You know that they're coming, right? You've got a movie called Multiverse of Madness. You've got mutants announced at Comic-Con a year and a half ago. Like, they're coming. And guess who else is coming? The Mandarin is coming. So your patience will be rewarded.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, I don't know why you would, like, demand a Doctor Strange cameo. You're getting a sequel. You've seen this character many times before. Why do you need a Doctor Strange cameo?
Also,
it's really fucking weird.
How would that be interesting with Doctor Strange and Wanda?
He would just be there.
Yeah, with Wanda interacting. Like, the reason why it was...
They don't have a connection.
Yeah, like, the reason why Doctor Strange and Iron Man, like, it was fun to watch them interact is because it's going to be tense between them because they have like very different personalities. But with Doctor Strange and Wanda, like,
they're wizard people.
they're just wizards. I don't know what kind of conversation.
But also, like, that was the whole point, right? Like, the character mashups was the point of Infinity War.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the point of WandaVision. And to the tweet that you just read, or the quote that you just read, I agree with everything he just said, except in regards, again, to... fuck, it's windy.
Yeah, it's a windy day today, guys.
Yeah. We might all die. Well, we will eventually. Quicksilver. Like, Quicksilver's not coming... If he doesn't come back... Like, he's not coming with the X-Men, right? Like, the whole point of Quicksilver is he is the sister to Wanda and that whole thing. And since they're very clearly not doing X-Men through... what's it called? The
Fox?
multiverse? Or in the very case, Fox. The only way you're going to get back any semblance of Quicksilver is if you do the thing I suggested and just make Ralph Boner the new Quicksilver. But give him the same, he's fucking Ralph Boner. He can play a new kind of Quicksilver, different personality. So again, that's the only part where if you're a little peeved about it, I kind of get it. Especially because I think my favorite episode is episode 7, where they do the Malcolm in the Middle.
That's 6.
The Halloween thing.
6. The Halloween episode.
Yeah.
But again, it's because a big part of it is I loved seeing the sort of whole Vision family,
Mm-hmm.
It's so cool, with the Quicksilver uncle and then the kids and then Wanda and Vision, and just that family dynamic they have is so cool and so fun. So that's the reason why I would want them all to come back, because I love that idea of the family dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you'll get that in Fantastic Four when they eventually do it. But I don't know. I think I like it better with this group of people.
Especially since the dynamic was so great. It's kind of the reason why the show was a success, in the first place. But I wanted to speak more to what was it? You brought this up, David, about why the fuck would Doctor Strange be in this? What sense would that make? I think this is a thing we can now diagnose as Mandalorian syndrome. I have to think that The Mandalorian season 2, especially because it was a cameo fest. Every episode was just like the Star Wars legacy player coming in and basically taking over the show. And of course, all of us here at Red Spotlight feel that really did the show no favors from a writing standpoint, from a quality standpoint. But again, we're a very extreme minority because everybody else in the world loves that fact about season 2. But for us, like it took away from what already was very thin character development, if at all, for the main characters. And I have a piece here by Mike Ryan. He says here that the title of his article was "Thank Goodness WandaVision Didn't Become a Cameo Fest. I wrote about WandaVision and how thank God none of these terrible sounding internet theories were right." I'm sorry, but this thinking that Doctor Strange needed to come in is like, because Luke Skywalker was a big character and he was brought in. Yeah. Guess what, guys? I don't know if someone needs to break this to you, but the writing on The Mandalorian isn't exactly
it's crap.
Yeah. It really is.
I think it's very bad.
There's literally nothing to those episodes at all. Like, barely a plot, no character development, honestly.
It feels like a write-out plot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the idea for a story, but then that's all they do.
It just looks like a fan-made story. It's like, let's make a video.
That's why the fans love it.
Probably.
It's literally those fan theories come to life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then the Mandalorian will meet Ahsoka, and then they'll team up together and they'll fight, and then Luke Skywalker will come in at the end and he'll tear across all the droids, and then Boba Fett will fly in and he'll be oh so badass, and he'll take out all these fucking stormtroopers by himself single-handedly, and he'll fucking use his rocket. Yeah, they'll do the ball, and it'll be so fucking cool. And it's like, yeah, this is what the show is. Yeah. Any interesting character development? No, not really. Anything like story at all? No. But I don't think that's what fans want. They want they kind of just want, I say Wikipedia articles, but just sort of like fan theory synopsises. That's kind of all they want. They don't want more than that, or at least a lot of them. I don't want to say all of them, but a good portion. Yeah. Don't bring up the Mandalorian, you bitch.
Well, damn. Another question here that was asked by Jack Schaefer, again, the showrunner of the series, was why wasn't Mephisto, literally she was asked this, why wasn't Mephisto in the show?
And then like, damn, bitch, that was never, that was you guys' thing. Like, what the fuck?
This is her answer. She said, we didn't think this series needed a big bad. The big bad is grief, you know, and that's the story we were telling. And then we got a bonus baddie in the form of Agatha Harkness, who ended up facilitating Wanda's therapy. I guess she was referring to episode 8. So yeah, I think we feel pretty good about that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. When they revealed Agatha Harkness, I knew, like, the song was literally Agatha all along. There's not going to be anyone above her.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, it's cool to theorize, but I don't care. Like if it happens, it's like, oh, cool. And if it doesn't, okay. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. People need to not get so married to the stories they create in their head. Right? Like, it's fun to
David
theorize,
and I were saying that every week. Every week, David and I were saying, hey, guys, be prepared. Just don't go crazy with this. Like, when we were theorizing, we were entertaining these theories, but we weren't thinking that, oh, it better be them. Otherwise, why were we theorizing in the first place?
Yeah. And the other thing though is that I want to say is when you theorize, like, make it about the character.
Yeah. Make it about the story that's actually unfolding. Right?
Yeah. Like, nothing about, like, okay, cool. Mephisto's coming here. Cool. Like, what's that going to do with the story? Or do you just want something action-y, or do you want character development as he's being revealed?
Remember, though, a few weeks ago when we were giving our review of The Mandalorian Season 2, and I asked Peter to read a poll that Grace Randolph put on Twitter about what people wanted out of this show. Remember what won that poll?
And it reminds me, I don't remember.
Remember, the one that people wanted most out of WandaVision was cool action sequences for Wanda, and character development was dead last.
That's right.
Oh my god.
They were all pretty even, but I think the number 1 was action and the number 2 was expand the universe. And that makes sense, right? Like, I think that's genuinely for anything Disney really at this point, but especially Marvel and Star Wars. It seems like the two things people want is badass action and expanding that universe, making connections, cameos, hints at future things. Mm-hmm. And what used to be like this fun little aside has just sort of taken over the whole thing, right? Like, let's say you're eating a cake and it's like, oh, you have that delicious frosting on top. Like, that's awesome. But it's gone to the point where people just want, like, a pound of frosting and then maybe a little bit of cake in there. And it's like, it throws off.
Or maybe, sometimes at birthday parties they serve ice cream with the cake, and it's supposed to be about the cake, but instead you want more ice cream.
See, I can't follow with that because I like the ice cream better, so I'm that guy.
Well, I do too, man. But like at birthday parties, what is supposed to be the main event is the birthday cake. That's I guess the analogy we're going with, not the ice cream. I have a piece here by Matt Goldberg of Collider. And I think this is going to basically speak to what all of us have been talking about here. I read this thing and I was laughing on the floor. It's a satirical piece. But while I read this, keep in mind some people actually believed this was like a legit article and were like agreeing with it. But this is pretty much and this is pretty hilarious here. This is what the article is titled. WandaVision failed to deliver things that were never promised to me. Who wants to watch a show about grief when I'm supposed to be getting sold on future Marvel things? So that's how it starts off with. For 2 months now, I've gone on Twitter after episodes of WandaVision, and everyone has been speculating about what's to come. The astrophysicist that Monica Rambeau mentioned. This has to be Reed Richards, because a new Fantastic Four movie is in the works. Sure, they won't even finish a script, and director John Watts is working on Spider-Man No Way Home, and a major piece of casting like that almost always leaks out in some form. But I was promised by the internet that John Krasinski would play Reed Richards, and which of course means that his real-world wife Emily Blunt was also being cast as Sue Storm, aka the Invisible Woman. The internet said so, and because Monica said the word astrophysicist, that means Fantastic Four. Twitter told me. Also, because Wanda is dealing with magic, that also means Doctor Strange has to show up. We know that Olsen is part of the cast for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and so Doctor Strange has to appear in WandaVision. That's not even a question. The only question is when Cumberbatch was making his cameo appearance, so that we could get ready for the next Marvel movie, even though it's not next and doesn't even come out until 2022. We need some kind of teaser. If you don't tease the next Marvel thing, then what are we even doing here? That last line, by the way, I think that's how a lot of people see these things. That's so. Go ahead.
But I guess it's like, that's such a crazy way to consume media to me, because you can never enjoy anything. Because the thing you're consuming right now is just about getting you excited for the next thing. And then when you get that next thing, that thing is just, it just exists to get you excited for the next thing. So it's like chasing the dragon. You know what I mean? You're never going to get that thing you want, but you enjoy chasing it. I get, it's weird. I don't know.
Go ahead.
I mean, I just want to say, like, when it comes to theories, you're never promised anything. You know, it just like, that's the big thing. I remember you brought up what was it? I got engineer friend.
Yeah, the astrophysicist
friend, whatever. And I said that when I first heard that, I just thought, cool, you have an engineer friend. We're gonna get back into the hex. Like that's what I thought. I didn't go, oh, is that gonna be Reed Richards? And like the other one that like I listened to a podcast, and this guy said that one scene in the second episode with the For the Children. You know, remember that? And people were going like, oh my gosh, it's like, oh my gosh, they're planting the seeds in her mind that she's like going to have children. Mephisto's like planting the seeds in her mind to have kids so he can be brought back to life or something. Like that was a theory people were making up. But when I rewatched it, I was like, oh, they said it normally. This wasn't like said like in a creepy way or anything. You know?
It's a little creepy. But I
don't know.
I think with foresight, you know, if you go back and see it, Wanda's making them say that.
Yeah.
She's in control. She wants kids.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why she's pushing this storyline. It's because at that point you're like, well, who's doing this? But once you figure out who's doing this, then, you know, it's not Mephisto, you know, that trapped her, trying to force her to have this. It's her who trapped herself, who wants that perfect family.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that goes back to rolling with the punches of a show. You may have theories that are fucking wild and some more believable, but you go with the flow. Whatever happens, you know, if it doesn't fit your theory, don't hate it simply because it doesn't follow your theory.
Mm-hmm.
You can hate it because it sucks.
Sure, yeah.
But don't hate it because it doesn't just create what you had in your mind before seeing it.
I guess people thought that Jon Favreau was writing this show, because if he were writing the show, then Reed Richards would show up. Then Doctor Strange would show up.
A Jon Favreau fucking WandaVision? Oh, man. Doctor Strange would have showed up in the second episode. Fucking for reals. Oh, my God.
Let me get back here to Matt Goldberg. He has a great. So imagine my utter rage and disappointment when WandaVision turned out to be a grief drama. Ugh, feelings. If I wanted to watch Elizabeth Olsen in a TV series about grief, I would watch Sorry for Your Loss, which I haven't, but I'm just saying it's an option. But my superhero shows are supposed to be about giving me more superheroes. It's supposed to be a teaser machine where instead of enjoying the current narrative, I need to be sold on the next narrative. What does Wanda's emotional state possibly tell me about whether or not Mephisto is going to come later? By treating Wanda's story as one about grief, loss, and healing, Marvel denied me the chance to connect my comic book knowledge to the movies. Do you think we read comic books for fun? No. We read them so we can amass a bunch of knowledge about storylines and then feel secure that we're ahead of the curve when the movies come along to repeat those storylines. I haven't been burned this badly by Marvel since the Mandarin turned out to be just an actor in Iron Man 3. Why would you play with my expectations, Marvel? To surprise me? To bring me joy? The only joy I feel is when my fan theories are proved correct so that people know I'm smart. I don't watch Marvel stuff to feel feelings or to think about my emotions or consider my place in the world or my relationships with others. I watch them for two reasons. One, to acknowledge comic books. The more obscure, the better, so as to reward my efforts, and two, to tease future Marvel projects at the expense of the one I'm currently watching. We all know that the best part of Avengers Age of Ultron is when Thor goes on his vision quest, because that clued us into the Infinity Stones, even though the stones had already been mentioned the previous year in Guardians of the Galaxy. I also think we can all agree that Iron Man 2 is the best Marvel movie because it does so much heavy lifting and setting up future Marvel movies. And in my opinion, there has not been a better Marvel scene than the one in Thor where Hawkeye is in a bucket to introduce us to the Hawkeye. WandaVision. I'm sorry, I'm cracking up. Let me finish this. WandaVision denied us all of these great kinds of moments that were not promised by the show in any way, but they were promised to us by the fandom, which is obviously more important than the thing they're supposedly a fan of. If you're not listening to the fans, then what are you even doing? Crafting a story with a strong character arc to explore a universal emotion that resonates deeply with the viewer? Who wants that? Looking back at WandaVision, all I see are a bunch of missed opportunities. Instead of using the series to introduce the X-Men, they just turned it into a gag about a guy named Ralph Boner, which, while objectively hilarious, did not support my fan theory, so the show failed. WandaVision made me look foolish, and all entertainment must support my ego. Last paragraph. I really hope that Marvel learns from the errors they made with WandaVision. We can't allow studios to enable creators to entrust their audience with emotions and thematic resonance. The whole point of an interconnected superhero universe is to abandon the main plotline as soon as it gets to selling us on the next thing in the interconnected superhero universe, rather than selling us on Fantastic Four or Doctor Strange 2 or the arrival of mutants, things that we have already been sold on and will watch no matter what. WandaVision was about feelings and characters, and that's just unacceptable. I do not watch superhero movies and shows to think and feel. I watch them so that my fandom is affirmed, and being a fan means always looking ahead to the next thing rather than spending time in the present. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to start theorizing about when we can expect Chris Evans to cameo in The Falcon and Winter Soldier.
He better. By the way,
I want to clarify again, if I didn't mention this already, this is satirical, people. This person wasn't being serious. He was making fun of people who think this way.
You say that, but he sounded pretty serious. Let me throw out a fan theory since this is all the rage these days. Chris Evans dies, and they go to his funeral and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Possible theory, throwing it out there. Of old age.
See that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I obviously everything you read, like, it's everything we've been saying. It's so utterly fucking weird. It's genuinely weird the way people, and I don't know if people always wanted to consume media this way, or, you know, Disney and Marvel just sort of coaxed audiences into viewing films and stuff this way. But it's weird to me. The way it's not about the story and the artistry of whatever you're watching. It's about connections.
Yeah.
Connections to other things that will then connect to other things that will connect to other things. And it's all about watching the world expand through new characters that you already know the characters, and watching storylines whose storylines you already know. And it's not the issue that you already know the storyline. It's that sometimes they do the storyline that you know, but they deviate from it, and then it fucks up your prediction, and now you're angry because you wanted to show everyone how right you are and how awesome it was that you knew this information before everyone else. And it's weird. It's this weird, like, nerd posturing of, I don't know how else to describe it, but man, I don't know. I don't like it.
Well, that's always been the case. You just, like, it just hit me.
But it feels it's been dialed up to 1,000,000.
I don't know, because like you said, like, it's this weird thing that people want to feel as if, like, oh, I knew this was coming, like, I knew this thing was going to happen. Nerds have this thing of wanting to know everything about a certain thing to feel validated. Because I remember, like, a long time ago, you know, with the whole gamer girl thing coming up, and it's
yeah,
like, if a girl mentions,
a real gamer?
If a girl mentions that she likes Halo, and, like, a dude will go, oh, what, do you know this character? Do you know this character? Do you know this weapon? And if, like, they don't know it, they're just like, you're not a gamer then. You know, it's just this horrible thing going on with, like,
it could just
for, like,
be
the longest time with nerds.
The most toxic elements of nerd culture brought to the forefront because it's the biggest thing now, you know? Marvel Endgame was the biggest film of all time. So now that it's at the forefront, but I don't know. I still feel like back then, like, arguments like who would win, you know, Batman or Superman? Like, they were fun, sort of like silly arguments, but they were never taken, like, seriously, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of things that used to just be like fun arguments, people were like, I'll fucking cut you. Like, how dare you? Like, look at all the shit with, like, the Snyder Cut and stuff, like, so much crazy, ridiculous uproar. And it's like, you know, I don't even like the movies, but, like, fuck, like, I don't care this much either way. Like and of course Star Wars, the way people have been bullied to the point of near suicide that have appeared in the films.
Like Kelly Marie Tran, by the way, who, you know, congratulations for her. She has made a comeback in a Disney movie, and people are loving it. So, yeah.
But I mean, look at what they bullied George Lucas into selling his own creation. They coined the term. I don't know for sure if they've coined it, but they sure as hell made it popular. Raped my childhood. Like, when you really think about the insinuations of that phrase, like, it's pretty disgusting.
There was a film called The People versus George Lucas.
Yeah, I don't. And this is what sucks to me because, like, all of us, we're nerds, right?
Yeah.
I mean, fucking look at Alexis's everything behind him. Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah. If only they could see. This is, of course, an audio.
Oh, God.
But,
if they could if you people could only see Alexis's room. By the way, he would love if you could, because he's put a lot of work into it.
A lot of it. I just got a new WandaVision poster.
Yes, you did. So like it's this thing where it's like I love this thing a lot, but I feel shitty being a part of like the larger community. Specifically with like Star Wars, right?
And it didn't used to feel that way.
It didn't used to. But maybe it's always been there, and then it's just gotten worse and worse. I don't know. But it's something that should be addressed.
I know, and no one seems to do it. I think I know a lot of people are obviously having to talk about, separating these fan theories and these expectations. And they're having that discussion now with WandaVision because, as one should. But I seem to, and I guess because people are just tired talking about this movie because of the toxicity that follows it anytime it's mentioned. But curiously enough, you notice now more so, I think these days, that when people mention or when they're talking about critical aspects of Star Wars The Last Jedi, if you're listening at home, this is where you take a shot. I think what happened there, people were expecting answers to the questions that J.J. Abrams served, and they did get answers, but they weren't the answers that they spent almost 2 years thinking about. And I have to say, and I think all of us felt at the time, and we do feel at this moment now, that a big reason for why the film was very divisive among Star Wars fans was because it did not pander to the exact things that they wanted. You know what movie did pander to the exact things that they wanted? A movie is called The Rise of Skywalker. And look how that turned out.
I mean, to defend them, did it though? I don't know what that film did.
Well, the Palpatine stuff, because I mean, the Rey being retconned to connect to a bloodline. That's
that is
what a lot of
they
people
wanted.
were calling for,
and that was fucking lame. I would just go. I think at the end of the day, what they really want is in the Mandalorian, and they do love it, but I don't. I
really hope it does keep coming back, because, like I said before, people who hated The Last Jedi but also hated The Mandalorian are starting to realize, like, oh my gosh, these people just care about action stuff.
But I feel like most Star Wars fans do. I guess, you know what it is? I feel like a lot of these people are sore winners, right? Like, they're getting everything they want. They loved Rogue One. They loved the video game with fucking...
Solo was soft, but they still liked it.
They liked Solo. They're loving The Mandalorian. They got their season 7 of the Clone Wars, which, I mean, you liked as well. All the announcements that they made are like tailor-made to their liking. They're getting an Obi-Wan, they're getting a Boba Fett show, they're gonna get an Ahsoka show, they're gonna get fucking Thrawn and Ezra. Like, they are getting everything that they want. And just today, they were still bitching and losing their minds. Like, dang, we need to fire Kathleen Kennedy. And it's like...
She's giving you guys what you've asked for. And by the way, we all hate the fact that she's giving you everything you asked for. You should not be rewarded for how completely toxic you have been.
How are you still mad, though? I just don't understand. How you're getting everything you want out of Star Wars, and you're
who
still
do you
mad.
Think signed the final print on those deals? The person who runs Lucasfilm, which is her.
She figured out exactly what you guys want, and now she's giving it to you. And it's like, why are you still mad? Why are you still going crazy? Like, I don't know. There's just a weird toxic element that underlies a lot of nerd culture, and I don't know how to fix it. Like, I don't know.
I want to say something. I think it's not without the realm of possibility. Let's say this WandaVision show was a Lucasfilm production, and let's say it ended up being the same reaction where fans are divided over their theorizing, right?
Yeah.
If this was Kathleen Kennedy produced, I feel the knives would be out for her. But notice that the knives are not really out for Kevin Feige, are they?
No, I guess if you understand their logic, to be fair, in their eyes, like he's batting 100 or whatever is a perfect score. I don't know batting averages. I'm a nerd. So you could say like, yeah, even if you're kind of turned off by this, he's more than paid his dues or whatever, benefit of the doubt, I guess. And you can argue, oh, Kathleen Kennedy, no. But I think at the end of the day, and believe it or not, I don't throw this around lightly, it really does feel like sexism with Kathleen Kennedy.
Thank you for saying that, because that's what I was... It feels that way. Hello?
She has literally produced some of the greatest films of all time. Like, if you look at the list of films she's produced, like, throughout her entire career, it is fucking incredible. And a lot of these people complaining, they liked Solo, they loved Rogue One,
Force Awakens.
Them really enjoyed Force Awakens. I literally only got one film that I really love throughout this entire thing with Disney and Star Wars, and I'm happy. Like, I'm cool. How are you still angry? I don't get it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It is the sexism, because, like you said, she's giving them everything they wanted. The Obi-Wan,
the last time we brought this up, David, we were cussed out by somebody who listened to the entirety of our 2-hour Captain Marvel audio commentary, and we didn't talk about the sexism part until the end of the commentary. So this person must have listened all the way through, and then they were so pissed off that they left a comment on YouTube because we dared call the critics of Brie Larson during this whole Captain Marvel thing sexist. So if you're out there, hi.
To be fair, you two are a couple of SJW cucks.
Oh my God.
Beta males. So,
but like, it is sexism, because the thing that they just keep bringing up with Kathleen is that whole forces female thing that they hate.
They turned her into Hillary Clinton.
Oh my God.
Let's be real. She's just this evil feminine force that must be destroyed. Like if Sauron was a fucking chick. Like it's just like this force of evil. I don't know. And
it is going back into WandaVision though too, because like we're saying that we really enjoyed the series and all that, and most of the complaints we're having, it's a bit of just trying to make the plot a bit better, or just some moments a bit better. Like, those are just our criticisms,
right?
But the videos that I've seen, it's the usual, our fan theories didn't come true, this was a waste of time. But the big one is at the very end, where Wanda leaves town, but like nothing happens to her.
Oh, that, yeah.
And it that's the thing that they're hitting on the most, and they're all like, oh my gosh, this is Marvel's MCU now. Like, I don't know if you heard that.
That's a new one. That's pretty funny. I'll give him credit for that one. MCU.
Yeah, it's really good. Like, it's a good thing.
I'd put that on a shirt.
But like this,
I'm writing that down. That's a clever name. That's actually pretty funny.
I'll give them credit for that one. I like that one.
Yeah, but like they're just they're complaining now that they're only going to focus on the female characters of Marvel, and
the next show is 2 dudes. What?
Yes. And so like, let me just tie it back in with WandaVision. So like, what they hate is that she lets everyone go and everything, and she goes like walking to town, and they're saying that like, oh, they're trying really hard to make her the hero in this show. And I'm like, no, she
really wasn't.
She is the bad guy in this, not the main villain, because I do think that is Agatha and Hayward from Sword. But like, no, she was a bad guy in this. And
for me, regular old Billie Eilish.
And like, I do expect repercussions from what she did here.
She's on the run.
Yeah, but like, it's not because she did something bad, but because she found out, oh, she might destroy the world. And like people want to defend Hayward. Like people are like, why is he getting arrested?
I've noticed that too.
He's trying to save the people. No, he wasn't. He wasn't trying to save these people. Like from the beginning, his goal was Vision, to try and bring him back. When you get to that, okay, like this is the one. This is a piece of plot that people have no idea, and that is the why is he getting arrested. So from the beginning, he wanted to bring back Vision. He did plant those seeds into Wanda, and it's like, oh, you probably have the power to bring him back to life. Sorry. And you know that didn't happen. I burped.
Oh, okay. Don't worry. Kyle burps all the time.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
But obviously Wanda couldn't do that, so whatever. But then the hex happens, and like he sees Vision is alive, and so what his plan afterwards was he did manipulate the video to make it seem that she stole Vision's body. And this is a piece of plot point people keep forgetting, is that he said that in the what's in Vision's will and in the Accords, it's clearly states that no one is allowed to bring Vision back to life. Like that she was labeled a terrorist just for doing that. And so that's why he got arrested. You know, his plan,
he was breaking the law. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when he brought him back, when he did actually finally bring back Vision back to life, he threw them into his hex. His plan was to kill Vision and Wanda there. And then once he comes out, he can be like, oh, Vision brought him back to life. Look at that. It's like, and his hands are.
He didn't do it. He just recovered.
He just recovered something. Wanda did.
A new weapon for the for the U.S. government. And
I realize this is going pre-Accords and everything, but like, okay, sure, I guess let's put that whole thing about, you know, holding Wanda accountable to the side. Was Tony Stark ever held accountable for almost destroying the planet because of Ultron?
He kind of got a skate by on that. I mean, he did a lot of terrible things. But because he saved the day, people were like, well, good for him. And it's like most of the shit that's ever gone wrong in the entire MCU was also because of him.
Yeah.
So it's like...
So it was okay when he fixed his own problems, but Wanda set everybody free. She tore down the hex.
Yeah.
And it's not okay when she fixed a problem that she started?
And we're not saying that like what she did was good or anything. Like, no, like these people are going to need therapy probably because of what happened here.
They were basically enslaved.
I think the show makes it very clear. Like, the fact that she literally not confronts, but like walks by the people and they're just like, you know, they're this close to just, you know, going yelling shame with their cowbell. And she even admits like they'll always hate me, you know. Like I can try to explain where I came from and like how I failed, but it's like they'll always hate me, and probably for good reason. I mean, I guess the closest you have to that is Monica going like, "Hey, if I was in your position, I'd do the same thing," and it's like, I can understand that line. I think is a little bit too much, like trying to get her off the hook, but that's from Monica.
I mean, I don't think it was trying to get her off the hook. I mean, well, actually, yeah, no, I'm wrong. Yeah, it is. Well,
she was trying to be empathetic. It's empathy. It's trying to like.
I understand what she was trying to do, but I think it should have been worded better, where it's like, I'm not angry at you because I understood that pain. And in a moment of weakness, I could see myself making the same mistakes, right? Like something like that, I think would work better than being like, "Nah, I would have done the same thing too." You know,
I mean, I didn't mind the line. I just kind of wish she put a bit of an effort to like convince her to stay, to be
and
like,
maybe
hey,
be like, conjure up some sorry gift baskets.
I mean, just like kind of like let people explain your side of the story and all that, but again, like I don't mind that she left right away, because again, she found out that she's probably gonna bring destruction to the world, so like it's probably just best to dip out as soon as possible. And
I think she also accepted that like I can try to apologize, but like it's what's happened, right? It's one of those things where it's like maybe if something really big happens between two people, and it's like you can try to apologize, but it's never going to be the same. The best is just to like walk away, sort of thing.
Cap and Iron Man.
Well, they kissed and made up. And she did ultimately sacrifice her family to set them free.
Oh my gosh!
Not that it makes it okay, but
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We're saving that for the very end for those sequences. But I want to stay on this real quick because I believe the showrunners also spoke to this what you had just mentioned, David. So this is there's so much conversation about taking Westview hostage in the finale as it is. WandaVision director Matt Shakman notes, in that mid-episode scene, we have Agatha really bringing it to Wanda saying, "Are you a hero or are you a villain? Heroes don't torture people." That's a huge moment in the finale when Wanda has to wrestle with that. Speaking to the scene following the Hex's collapse, head writer Jack Schaefer tells TV Line, "I think Wanda's walk of shame back into town is really powerful, and it was written as such on the page. It was meant to be..."
That's what I literally said. Shame.
Now that's funny. It was meant to be like an assault of death glares from people, and we were meant to feel how angry they all are. I remember a note from Marvel Studios chief Kevin Feige being like, more. Let's feel that for her. Let's understand what she did was terrible, Schaefer adds. To those who wished a happier ending for Westview, no, that's not the story we were telling. That's that now Wanda has to make everything okay, Schaefer says. It wasn't about landing her in a way where it's like everything's wrapped up and squeaky clean and she's a hero and has done no wrong. She's done a lot of wrong, and there will be probably reckonings down the line. No, I like how that's in the gray area of misdeeds that she's been involved in.
Yeah, like I said, I hope there are repercussions from it later on.
Well, I think we can probably get into, not that we're wrapping it up, but I think this is an interesting question, right? In terms of like what lies in store for Wanda in the future, because it kind of feels like they're setting up a Dark Phoenix kind of thing for her, because as like Agatha was saying, that you're destined to destroy the world. You have no idea what you've unleashed. She cracks out the Darkhold, and if you look at the images, I think what's going to happen is, because Wanda has the Darkhold and she's reading the Darkhold and she hears her kids, the Darkhold is going to corrupt her to unleash the multiverse. It seems that's what's going to happen, right? Or am I wrong here? And her unleashing the multiverse is what's going to threaten to destroy the world.
I don't know. I have a theory as to what's going to happen. Like, I don't really know exactly. But the thing that I'm worried about, though, is that are they going to make her a villain? Like, that's what it almost seemed like at the very end, is that
it seemed that way, but I think
go the Dark Phoenix route.
It could be that, but I don't think they'll kill her. I think what happened is she'll be manipulated by the Darkhold in the multiverse of madness. She'll be like a secondary villain, and then there'll be like a Mephisto or Dormammu or something else above her in the movie.
That was my theory, is that she's reading the Darkhold. I am assuming that she's reading it because she wants to know more about her powers and like what chaos magic is.
But she probably has no idea that that's not the best thing to do, is read that book, though.
Yeah. And so when she hears her kids, though, I don't think that's her kids. And my theory is that is going to be Mephisto trying to like trick her into opening up a portal into his dimension or whatever.
That could happen.
Or the other thing, though, is that her powers are connected to Mephisto, because how does her
the kids themselves could be connected to Mephisto? Remember, they were referenced as demon spawn earlier.
Yeah, and something people pointed out too was when she said like her final goodbye to her kids, she said, "Thank you for letting me be your mother." And like, it's just sort of like these little things that make you think like there is something special about these kids that we just don't know about much. So, I mean, they could lead to something bigger.
I mean, they've introduced witches, or we're going to introduce demons. I think all of that is definitely coming on the way. And we'll save the Darkhold discussion toward the end, because that breeds a whole different level of conversations. But yeah, I I'm interested to see how that's all going to pan out, but I think I kind of more or less see. I think one of the two things we mentioned is what's ultimately going to happen. Mm-hmm. I don't think they'll kill her. That would just be too sad.
No, I mean, before this show, I was all for her becoming the villain, her somehow just getting killed off right here. But like after this, though, like I want her to have a happy ending. I don't want her to become the villain and all that. It's just like give her, especially because like she just suffered so much, and for her to just kind of like get through this now, like of everything that's happened, like give her a happy ending.
Peter, do you have any thoughts on how that post-credit scene is going to play into the events of Doctor Strange? Or do you think David and I are on the money here?
I think you're pretty on the money. I think I like the whole she's destined to destroy the world thing. Like that's not what's ever been a part of the character, right? The Scarlet Witch. It feels something very deliberate for what they're planning. Like that feels like a mandated, you have to include this from Kevin Feige. So it's obviously, I think, going to play into Doctor Strange or the Multiverse of Madness, and maybe somewhat into Spider-Man Away From Home as well. It'll probably culminate in her, like you guys said, shattering the multiverse, trying to get her kids back, and that may accidentally lead to quote unquote the end of the world, or almost the end of the world, because they're heroes and they'll fucking save the day. That's probably how I think it'll play out.
The big thing Agatha said is that she'll bring destruction into the earth, so that could mean literally like bringing the being that could cause the destruction, or who knows.
Yeah. I wanted to answer a question that I said to stick a pin in. You asked, David, about how much do these shows, are they by design supposed to tie into the movies? I dug up a couple of quotes here by Feige, and I think there are two different responses here. I saw a video of Grace Randolph over the weekend, and she spoke to this as well. And I wanted to throw this in to get some discussion here about how much these Disney Plus shows tie into the movies. So in 2019, Kevin Feige said, if you want to understand everything in future Marvel movies, you'll probably need a Disney Plus subscription. So that seems pretty clear that if you want to keep up with everything going on, you probably need to watch the shows.
Well, wasn't there also...
Yeah, I was going to read the other one here. So
yeah, let him
he
read
also... Well, I don't know if we mean the same thing, but a few weeks ago at the TCA event, remember we had talked about how he was defending a bunch of shows like S.H.I.E.L.D. and Daredevil. He was also asked a question about, hey, are people who don't watch the shows going to have trouble following the movies? And he said, no. He said no. And then Randolph said on her side, this is what she said. So that means, and I can't believe this, that nothing truly important to the MCU will ever happen in a Disney Plus show. Those are her words.
Mm-hmm. So from his quote from 2019, looking at this now, what he really means is that it's how Infinity War happened. Like, people saw Infinity War, they understood what was going on in the plot, but they didn't have that same connection that we had when watching that movie. Like, we didn't have those emotional moments.
For people who went into Infinity War as their first Marvel movie, you mean, without having seen any of the pre-existing Marvel films?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said that you brought a bunch of friends to watch that movie.
Yeah.
And, like, they had the greatest time, probably. And
Ain't that the damnedest thing? They didn't see a single Marvel movie, but they loved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I think that's what he meant by, like, if you want to truly understand the movies, you have to get a Disney Plus subscription. But what he means by that other quote, by just saying no, is just that, plot-wise, you don't really need to watch the Disney Plus shows.
Because that was a concern I was having a few years ago as well. It's like, well, hey, wait a minute here. So you're saying that some people are going to be lost if they don't follow with all the Disney Plus shows? So that was a concern, but he seemingly addressed it here. It was like, no. You're not going to be lost.
I mean, I said it too in the it might have been Fantasy Fair or in this one, but I said like I don't like the model that they're using is that making these shows and the movies like the general audience are going to get confused as to like what's happening. But after seeing this show, like I'm obviously wrong. You know, it's just that no, these shows it's just to characterize the ones that we've seen. And when you watch the next Avengers movies, or when you watch Doctor Strange 2, and you see Wanda, you know, you might be kind of like, oh, cool. She has you'll probably just see her with a cool new costume. Her powers seem cooler now, probably. But for us, it's just kind of like, oh God, please don't be the villain, or like whatever happens to her emotionally.
I guess the hope here is that maybe most of these Disney Plus shows are gonna, I don't know, put character over interconnectedness. Then, if that's the case,
I heard someone say that this phase is what they're, I guess, theorizing is that this phase, it's all about like, oh my God,
developing character.
No, not developing. Oh, I mean, yeah, that, but mostly just to. It's all about bringing up the next
generation.
The next generation, yeah. So like you got Wanda being characterized now. Falcon, he is the next generation of like.
Well, these are all the characters. These are all the characters who were supporting B, C players in the past films who are now getting their own time to actually be explored with and do something with.
But
basically.
Then you have the Hawkeye show though, where Kate Bishop is now going to be the next generation of the Hawkeye character, basically. That's going to be the big one for me is like, okay, if people watch the movies and she's in it, like, are they going to get confused?
They are going to do Young Avengers.
Yeah. Probably. I don't know how to feel about that personally. I think some people would be fine, but
depending on the story, that could be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to say that we have been impressed thus far with WandaVision, I don't know if so far our tone has been negative. I don't think it has. I think overall we were really positive on the episode, and as far as WandaVision is concerned, we're very positive on that. Peter, overall, how do you feel about this thing that you don't have to watch the shows? I mean, the shows to be to keep up with the movies.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, this made me maybe like the shows more, this implication that it's not going to be this...
Me too.
Nothing overtly massive will happen within the shows.
Mm-hmm.
Which, because they don't want you to feel lost if you only see the movies, which makes sense. I think that definitely makes sense. So that tells me that they will be less inclined to do crazy over-the-top shit with the shows and be forced to focus more on character stuff, you know? And they're these own little personal journeys, which we did see with Wanda, right? Mm-hmm. So I know some people might hear that and not like it, and you know, if you want more world-changing stuff to happen, like maybe, you know, like S.H.I.E.L.D. being fucking Hydra and Winter Soldier and shit like that, and knowing that you're not going to get that with these shows, you know, like, yeah, I can understand that might be disappointing, but to me, who kind of wants them to cool it with like the world-changing events happening every single Marvel film, the world's ending and it's upending the whole whatever.
Especially
smaller, more, yeah.
Because like if you think about it, some of the best Marvel movies didn't have world-ending events.
Yeah. All right, let's dive back into some of the story details here. Let's start off with one of the weakest link here, and you mentioned him a few minutes ago. Hayward. What the fuck was the point? And honestly, like, for however serious people were taking this particular storyline, but none more so than with Hayward, it ended so freakishly cartoonish. Like, he just became a caricature. Like, he wasn't even his caricature wasn't a character. He was shooting kids, and then he was just like dispatched with by like as easily. And like, what was the point? Like,
I really hate his character.
It was so weak. Am I wrong? It was so weak. That whole thing, the sword thing went nowhere for me.
I really didn't like that whole aspect. Hayward was just the worst caricature of a typical bad guy. Like, he just popped in and just started firing rounds into kids. Why? I don't know. Because he's bad guy. At every level, he just comes in.
He was
like,
monologuing.
I'm the sleazy bad guy. And just not even interesting. There's just nothing with him. So much of the sword stuff is just, I found just boring and unnecessary.
Me too.
And I know they feel they kind of had to do that, but they didn't. I don't think they did. Well, I don't know, because a lot of fans like that stuff. I don't know. Me personally, I just didn't connect with it.
I think, and then someone pointed this out. At some point, and I think this is why a lot of us liked, I liked it the least, but overall, episode 4, which was the sword explainer episode, received such high marks. But I mean, with a Marvel show like this, there was a point in time, and episode 4 seemed the most likeliest to be that time, where you're going to have explained all of the things that were going on. Sure. I kind of feel like I didn't need any more beyond just that. I mean, as far as charming a presence as Kat Dennings or as Randall Park are, I didn't need to see them every single episode. And not to say that they were bad on screen, but I've been saying this, but every time they've been on screen, my interest just completely waned. And it got, I think, worse and worse as the weeks went along. And for, as much as how I've just said that Hayward was seemingly a waste of time, I guess to me, my biggest criticism of the whole series thus far is it just comes across like maybe Monica Rambeau really was just here to set her up for Secret Invasion and Captain Marvel 2. Because I thought her story and her shared grief, or she's going through grief as how Wanda is going through grief. I literally thought that was going to pay off in the end. And she was she was in this finale for 2 seconds. So she really had basically nothing to do with the overall resolution of the events that took place. And then so now I'm left wondering, so Monica was just here because we needed to see her, we needed to get introduced to her, and we needed to get ready for the next Marvel thing, which is Captain Marvel 2? Because I mean, the reason why I was okay with her being in this show was that I believed on some level her shared grief was going to tie in thematically and be a part of the resolution to the Hex being brought down.
I thought that too. I thought she would play some major role, right? But she was there,
She got powers.
By the end of it, it really feels like the whole reason she was even introduced in the show is just to introduce this character that will appear in future shows, which again is disappointing because she could have been more. And again, in the very beginning, it felt like she was going to be more. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then she wasn't.
I think that was the whole purpose with Sword, just to bring her in and bring Vision in for something later on. Who knows what. But I think really just, I mean, I know the villain in this show is supposed to be grief itself, but I think it was a bit of a wasted opportunity to just have Hayward be the big villain somehow.
I guess to me, look, maybe this is just me, but looking at it, from an outside perspective and how everything transpired, I'm looking at the storylines that were set up with Agatha and with Monica and with Wanda. And it doesn't seem like it would have been that difficult to tie all three of those in thematically with this shared theme of grief. Right?
No, it was there.
Yeah.
It was literally there.
So why not do it? That's my frustration, is why not do that? If the result will be a better product in the end, why not do that?
I think on some level they think they did.
Sure, maybe. Yeah, okay.
In which case my response is it could be done a lot better.
Yeah, well, like I said, like when I explained why Hayward was arrested, that's like the one thing people like didn't understand. You know, I had to sit down.
He was shooting kids. What more clear image do you need to see that he wasn't a good guy, people? He was murdering children.
But like when I was thinking of like, okay, yeah, why did he get arrested exactly? Like, what law did he break? And like I literally had to sit down and I stared at the ceiling for like 10 minutes just trying to put the pieces together, you know? So like I think you're right, Peter, in that they probably did think that they did a good job of it, but they just needed to work it around to just really make it clear for us at the very least.
I just think like what's unfortunate is on future rewatches of WandaVision, I'm probably just going to fast forward through everything sword related.
Yeah, it sucks because in the beginning I thought it would at least be a little bit better than what it turned out. That whole section of the show turned out to be.
And God, could you imagine if when they introduced Sword in episode 4, that they completely dropped the sitcom format and never went back to it? Like I feel like that could have been a possibility. With that. So yeah, that was disappointing, that thing with Monica. So I guess we can talk about the this is the stuff that I think worked the best this episode. And that is when Wanda has defeated Agatha, and they're all with her family, they're all walking back home with the full acknowledgement that she's about to bring down the Hex and she's going to walk away from her family, essentially sacrifice them. And the sequences that we see from there on out, I have to say, I think are some of the most effective Marvel sequences I've ever seen as far as for eliciting emotion. I was so invested in this unit, these characters as a family. The previous episodes were so effective on selling us on that dynamic. Watching it both times that I've seen the episode, when it gets to that part, I am just fighting the urge to completely break down. I am just fighting tears. You know, I'm just so like, and I think when I realized what was about what was really transpiring here, I was oh my goodness, we're gonna see this, we're gonna do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go home. You know, she tucks the kids in bed, you know, Billy and Tommy, and you begin to feel the weight about what's gonna happen here. And I just got really emotional because I grew so attached to them as a family, and to say goodbye, it just seems so unfair and so heartbreaking for her after all that she's already been through. And yet here she is again, willingly letting go of that. And she says families are forever, and you get the sense that everyone in that room knows what's about to come, and they're putting on a strong face and they're putting on a brave face, but it feels so gutting. And as she walks out of the room, they both say goodnight to them. And when she says, you know, thank you for choosing me to be your mom. I know there are maybe other implications about what that could mean, but in the moment, what the primary purpose it was serving was basically to punch me in the heart.
No, I mean, it's honestly is nice to see her taking this loss, like not letting her knock her down. Like when she said in episode 8 that like the wave keeps hitting me and it knocks me down. Whereas this one, there's a literal wave coming in at any moment, and she's waiting to like take it in, and she's gonna stand up to it almost. Like that's honestly like fucking beautiful for me right there. And something someone pointed out is that at almost like at the end of every sitcom, there's always that scene where like they walk out of the room, or like before they walk out of the room or the house, they turn off the lights and everything. And it was about to happen in that moment with her turning out the last lamp. But Vision turns one right back on just to look at her one last time. And oh my God, I actually didn't think of that when I first saw it. But like when I heard it on some other podcast, I was just like, fuck it ain't, man. Why you gotta make me cry at work here?
Yeah, there are very few moments in the MCU where I'm that emotionally moved. I think back to, and I watched just a couple weeks ago, I was watching a scene out of Endgame. One of my favorite scenes from Endgame, I think one of the best scenes I've ever seen in my life. There's really no line of dialogue in this moment. But when Steve is looking longingly at Peggy from like the blinds, the covered window blinds, in that what's it called, when they're back in time, obviously, and he's just walking toward, and the music is swelling up, and there's just this longing in his face. Like, I remember being in that theater and just my face was just erupting. I had to fight back my face from completely exploding in tears because of how moved I was. And in this instance, just having to see Wanda say goodbye to her kids was basically there. But in this case, the waterworks didn't end in that situation, because then immediately following that, she had to say goodbye to Vision. And again, I think the writing has been commended as far as, I think, for the overall episodes as a whole. I know last week there was a lot of credit given to, that the dialogue in particular between Wanda and Vision. But that line where she was, where she's saying to Vision, you're my hope, you're my love, you're the, that is, I don't know what's the best word to describe that, but it's the kind of feeling that left me just breaking down, and I think, to me, that's why this show ultimately, I think, is great and a success, and I'm thankful that it exists, and that's what always has been the best part, and that is these two, the connection that these two have. I loved it. It broke me. I thought it was great. And then the whole thing just come down and disappears. That it was a beautiful sequence.
Much better than Peggy and Steve.
You gotta take your digs in somewhere, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
You're contractually obligated.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
With Disney. No, this is why I'm really digging the idea of these shows. If all they do is make me like really care about these characters and get really good character development with them, then that's awesome.
Are you okay? Are you breaking down?
Somewhat. If all we get is really interesting, good character development, that's worth it. Like, everything developing the relationship between Wanda and Vision in this, and her psyche, and really their love, like you said, that final goodbye, it's good. It was really good, and it really worked. And you got some of the best character stuff in the entire MCU in this show. The stuff that I think worked the best emotionally. I know to a lot of people this is a very big faux pas, maybe, to say this, but like, that is, I think more emotionally effective than something like Cap picking up Thor's hammer, or even maybe the portal.
Oh yeah,
scene, like, it's
for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that doesn't even compare. This is, as Scorsese would say, this is a genuinely emotional connection of two human beings expressing it with one another.
Cinema.
I mean, this is definitely more emotional than Luke Skywalker tearing down robots, you know? Like,
Oh my god, can you...
you mentioned the hammer, and I was like, oh, yeah.
Because there were literal videos. There was, I think, several videos of people who were reacting to it who were breaking down in tears because Luke Skywalker was killing robots in The Mandalorian. That's what you were talking about, in case those who were not aware of that. But yeah, this is, I think, the appropriate response that elicits tears. Yeah, you know, just, you know, in looking back on the show, this is, I've mentioned that I've been listening to the scores every week by Christoph Beck. And I think, to me, one of my favorite moments of the show, well, all of my favorite moments have to deal with, you know, WandaVision, but perhaps I think maybe the most heartwarming one that I can think back of was back in episode 3, Now in Color, when Wanda has the twins, Vision arrives, and they're holding them, and, you know, they're holding both of their babies in their arms, and the music is playing, and it's just, I don't know, it's like, that I think is kind of some of the best stuff Marvel will ever do, or has ever done. And I kind of I wish that more of the movies had more moments like those. And who knows, maybe these Disney Plus shows are going to actually facilitate some, you know, character development instead of just, you know, existing for the sake of connecting to other things. And I think that's a win. That's not something I was expecting. This whole show has been a complete revelation. I was not expecting it to be anywhere near this good. I was not expecting it to be anywhere near this focused. I know we were criticizing the whole thing with Monica and Sword and maybe overall Agatha. But overall, this is a win.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, this is, I think overall, just great.
I mean, that's what
yeah.
That's why I said, like, the fighting, like, that's the least interesting thing about this whole episode. Like, this ending right here is what made the show for us, honestly. And it ended the way that I always like my superhero shows to end. And I love that line of what Vision says. It's like, I was a voice without a body but not human. I wonder what I'll be next. And I love the endings like that, where it's like, you don't know what's going to happen next, but like, you hope it's good. You think it's going to be great. And yeah.
Overall, do we have any more feelings about anything that hasn't been discussed thus far, whether it be positive or negative overall in the show?
Something people criticize on that ending is that, oh, why should I feel anything here if the kids were never real? I literally heard that someone say that, and I'm like, they
were real. They were real, though. I mean, if you want to get into the canon or the canonical explanation, shouldn't her quote unquote chaos magic, she brings life? They're real. I mean, they can't exist without the hex, obviously, but that's the use of the magic. But like,
I mean, either way, like, however way you want to dig into it, right, it doesn't necessarily matter, because they were real to her.
Sure.
They were real to Wanda either way, you know? Like, she must have held something in her stomach. I mean, come on. And, like, regardless of it, like, I mean, that one scene where she's opening up the hex and, like, she sees her kids and Wanda breaking apart. That moment where Vision, like, calls out to his sons, like, boys, like, as he's being torn apart. Like,
oh, God, I forgot to mention that. Oh,
that
God.
Shit broke my heart, man. Like, I did not want to see that. But yeah, like, regardless of it, like, how you want to get to specifics of their existence, they're real to her. And, like, that's the important part. Because this is her show. This whole thing is about her.
Yeah. I guess some other things that I've picked up on that people were criticizing was, what was the point of the commercials? You know, people were buying into the idea that the commercials were tied into the Infinity Stones or something, or that they were teasing other things, and, well, I guess they were just commercials. How about that?
No, it was actually a much more way to kind of connect with her in some way. So like, when you hear the beeping and then you hear the beeping in episode 8, you're gonna go, oh my God, it's like, it's still affecting her. It's just, in a weird way to try to like get inside her mind, basically.
Do you guys have a favorite episode of the season? I think Peter mentioned the Halloween episode. That was episode 6.
Episode 8, for sure. I love that
episode
line.
8. I want to say it's episode 8, but I think I'm probably going to go with maybe the first one. Maybe the first one.
Yakety yak.
Yeah, but most of them were great, if not all of them. They were really well done. Final thoughts on the season, and then we got to move on to this Darkhold business on the WandaVision.
I loved it. Like it did what I wanted, was just to kind of characterize her, get into her mind as to like how is she taking all of this that's happened to her in her past, and there it is. Like, but yeah, I some people were saying like, oh, I never really cared about Wanda or anything like that. I actually did care about her from the beginning. Like, I thought she was, I mean, she wasn't like my favorite character or anything, but like I found her really interesting. And so just to have this show and to like really like bring her into the forefront almost of all these characters, like I loved it. And it does get me excited for Doctor Strange 2 and for this phase, I guess, of the MCU.
Peter?
I think this was a really good 9-part film. I thought it was very well done. It was better than I expected it would be, but then those first few episodes raised my expectations, and then it wasn't as good as those expectations. So it went like up and then down and then a little bit higher than the middle. Overall, I think it was really good. Everything that has to do with the title I thought was really good. WandaVision. And obviously that's why you're there, right? But while I'm glad that the show did not focus nearly as much as I originally thought it would on all the sword stuff, the sword stuff that was there just doesn't do it for me. It really, for a lot of part, goes nowhere. It feels like Monica's just there to set up other shit, just to set up a hero, set up the fact that she gets powers and shit. Like even the way she gets powers, I was never here to talk about it. It's so fucking weird.
Yeah,
like she tries to get in and then I don't know why she thinks she would be able to just run in, but she's just like, you know, in that episode when she got her powers, she just runs into the hex.
Yeah, I mentioned
what? Why?
I mentioned it that it was a bit underwhelming, that scene, just to kind of like, that's how she gets her powers. Okay.
And it's like, why does she get powers and not everyone else? I don't know. It feels very forced. I'll be honest. It does feel a bit forced. But even with all that other stuff, they took a lot of chances, did a lot of weird, fun things, really committed to the exploration of trauma with Wanda and Vision. I loved her and her little family. And by the end, I was like, this was a really cool, just like isolated story and exploration of these, you know, characters. And I really dug it. It was cool. Overall, it's a positive for me.
Yeah, I loved it. I agree with basically all the things both of you have said, both in the positive and the negative. I think I agree 100%. And to me, I loved it because they kept the focus overall. The main point of the show was on Wanda and Vision, and that they committed to the sitcom format, which has literally rekindled my love for sitcoms. I would not be marathoning Modern Family right now if it wasn't for watching WandaVision. So, yeah, I think overall, for me, the positives outweigh the negatives. That being said, though, I think the negatives, I think are pretty overt, but maybe not overall as bad as I expected it to be. You know, at the end of the day, I feel like my expectations for far and away exceeded. considering what I originally thought this would be, very low tier, this is not all what I expected it to be. I'm so grateful for WandaVision, and I think I probably still love this more than anything I loved in 2020 as far as films are concerned. Well, it's not a film. It's not a film. It's a television show. It's
if we look at Letterboxd, home of films, it's there. So
I never saw it was officially sanctioned as the official home for films. So I don't think that has any bearing on what is valid in this conversation.
It's a film.
All right. No, it's a 9-part miniseries. Anyway, that's our thoughts on WandaVision. I think we're going to go ahead and be back here, David, for Falcon and Winter Soldier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why the fuck not? Let's keep this thing going. All right. So before we close off today, so apparently that was the Darkhold that was used in the episode, and it was pretty overtly used and everything.
Yep.
David said a few weeks back he had some strong thoughts about if it was the Darkhold, what that would mean. Peter seemingly has a different point of view than what I think David will go into. So this should be interesting because obviously with the Darkhold being involved, there's been a lot of chatter online about what that exactly means in terms of the previous Marvel television shows that were produced by Jeff Loeb. The Darkhold was previously featured in The Runaways, I think in season 2. I never saw season 2, but I think it was there.
I don't remember the Darkhold being mentioned in season 2. I saw the show.
No,
I don't remember.
The Darkhold, or maybe it was 1. No, the Darkhold was featured in that show. There's images from it where it was there. Mm-hmm. And then obviously it was featured heavily in the 4th season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There was actually a pretty hilarious tweet. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but this was Gabriel Luna, who played Ghost Rider on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Mm-hmm. Did you see the tweet?
Yeah, I just saw it. I think I know what you're talking about.
He was like, okay, I'll admit it. Under my mattress may have not been the best hiding place because he was last seen with the Darkhold on that show. But to the point, it has kind of opened up a larger conversation about, is this the same Darkhold? What does that, if it's not, what does it mean? If it is, what does it mean? Guys, what are your thoughts?
I mean, some people did theorize that, the Darkhold takes shape of, whoever's seeing it. It takes a different shape of whoever sees it. But I honestly think that this is straight up just the Darkhold, and they're probably erasing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. somehow. I think it's just, for one thing...
They can say there's multiple Darkholds. There's a million ways they can get around it if they wanted to.
Honestly, that makes less sense than...
Remember in the original Thor when the Infinity Gauntlet was in Odin's throne room, and then it turned out that actually, what's his name, fucking made his own gauntlet... And all this, so then they retconned it to be that gauntlet in Odin's throne room is actually fake. And If there
was a close-up where Hela did that, she knocked it off.
Yeah, they literally did it for the audience so that they can understand it. If they want to, they can do some retcon. They can say that the book changes now and then. They can say all kinds of shit, right? The question, I don't think this answers the question of retcon or not retcon. I don't think there was any direct acknowledgement of a retcon or there not being a retcon. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that. Just because the book looks slightly different, because again, you could even say, well, Ghost Rider went and placed it in hell. Fucking what's her name's bunny is a demon. Maybe could have gotten it from hell. I don't know what to tell you. It could work. So to me, this isn't a direct acknowledgement. Either way.
Then the point being is that there's enough wiggle room there you know, where it can be or it can't be. I think what the answer to why the Darkhold looks different is because they didn't like how it looked like in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and they wanted to redesign it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's kind of what happened.
I mean, if you do look at the original one, it's just like a regular book. It says Darkhold. Bro, this one, like, they really try to put symbols in it. They had a CGI to make it look all mystical or something. It had
flames and little embers flying off of it. Yeah, I mean, let's just say it looked better. Mm-hmm. It was a much better design than what was in S.H.I.E.L.D. And I think because it looks completely different, because like Agatha mentions chapters and like she opens it up and there's like these chapters here, but then in the series, you would open up the book and it would show you what you wanted basically. So I guess like that's a little bit of the differences here and there in regards to the book. But as to whether or not this like retcons it, I don't know. I think both of you can be right at the same time. Although it's interesting because I feel like if the statement was intended for that S.H.I.E.L.D. is just quote unquote canon or not, or it was retcon or doesn't matter, why hasn't anyone come down and officially said that from Marvel?
It could be that they haven't even made a decision yet. They're
why is it? Yeah. Why is it? Well, a few weeks ago, when Kevin Feige was asked about, the Marvel television shows, why wasn't there like a clear answer? There wasn't a clear answer about whether or not they were canon or not, and there was no clear answer when he was asked about rumors of several cast members coming back for different projects. Why not just say no to those questions?
Because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is over. He's in charge of everything. If he wanted, he can come out and be like, he doesn't even have to say they're not canon. He could just say like, I'm not worried about keeping canon with the continuity. Yeah, I'm not worried at all about keeping continuity with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or any of these shows. But he didn't. So I don't know. Mm-hmm. Especially as they're doing multiverse shit. So
that's true, and I will say, like, I think they can easily explain this with like, the book it's a magic book. It can change its appearance whenever the fuck it wants. I mean, what? I buy it. It happens.
I mean, look at what they did with Vision. They're like, oh, actually, you have all your memories. Let me just unlock them real quick for you. Your Vision now. It's all bullshit. They'll come up with one or two lines for just about anything to be like, oh yeah, that's why this is the way this way.
Remember Spider-Man Homecoming 8 years later?
Oh yeah, that was just a fuck up. They just counted wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to me, if I would be feeling maybe more along with where David is if I hadn't had those interesting quotes that Feige had given a few weeks ago. Because he had every chance to say those shows are not part of what I'm doing, and they won't be. And he could have put it to bed. And some may feel that this Darkhold thing puts it to bed. But I mean, and I've discussed it with both you, David, and with both Peter, that there have been, we talked about rumors about, in the Star Wars world about, Kenobi making an appearance in the Cassian Andor show, Ahsoka making an appearance in the Cassian Andor show, and a lot of those rumors end up being true for one reason or the other. That isn't to say that all rumors end up coming true. But I mean, I've had discussions with both of you that there have been, by several different sources, as small town sources as they are, that, Clark Gregg or Chloe Bennett may be coming back. Who knows? And they were pointing to maybe Secret Invasion. That's not outside the realm of possibility. That could happen.
She's a new superhero now.
What?
She's a new superhero now. She'll be too busy.
Oh, yeah. She's a Powerpuff Girl, yeah. So, awesome. I mean, yeah, she's a Powerpuff Girl, yeah. So, like, who knows what's ultimately going to happen, but...
Does that mean she's going to be a redhead? I would think she'd be Buttercup. No, wait, Buttercup's the blonde. It's Blossom, Buttercup. And...
Blossom's the redhead.
No, Bubbles.
Buttercup's the blonde.
Bubbles is the blue one. Buttercup's the green. Blossom's the red. Right?
Yeah. Bubbles is the blue one. My bad. Buttercup's the green one.
So,
I mean, she could just dye it. I mean,
she could dye it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that one guy from Riverdale.
I think she's Blossom.
What is it? AJ Kappa. That dude seriously dyed his hair for what is it? Archie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's like, I don't know. I think he has black hair.
I hear Riverdale's like the worst show in the fucking world.
It is bad, but it is such a guilty pleasure for me, honestly.
It must be because of it's still on the air, but yeah, a lot of people have been talking about that. I can see where Chloe is doing. The scheduling can do the shows at the same time. Those reports spoke nothing to whether or not it was a cameo or if it was like an extended role throughout the series. So I have to imagine if that's happening, which I kind of feel like maybe it is. There's no reason to think that wouldn't be happening ultimately at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. But I guess we'll see. I guess there's still, I guess, a way for them to be worked in, but if it doesn't happen, well, it doesn't happen. But I mean, we've been talking about it all these different weeks about what, how the show is being covered and everything. We need to also talk about the Darkhold because, I mean, it either is a direct connection to it or it's the opposite. Mm-hmm. What that means, I guess we're going to have to find out in a year from now. Mm-hmm. To have a final answer on it.
I hope it's a retcon so that I can watch you cry.
If it's a retcon, well, I made my peace with it. 7 seasons.
But then it's still different once it happens, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, for those of you looking for a Marvel fix, I know a particular streaming service that's offering 7 seasons of a Marvel show right now. So it's on Netflix. Go out and watch them. It's there. It's Marvel stuff. And who knows? You might just like it. Mm-hmm. So there's that. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up tonight. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, David, for being here. Thank you, David, especially for being here for all these WandaVision recaps. And we will come back to discuss the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Catch our podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, Spotify, CastBox, YouTube. Stay under the spotlight, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.